My girlfriend of 2 years dropped the news on me that she has a 3-year-old son, and she's been hiding him from me for years and never really told me about it. And now as a result of it, we finally have broken up, and I'm really torn apart about this, because right now I really don't know what to do, and I don't know how to move forward with my life. Here's what happened. For a bit of context, my girlfriend is from a different country and moved here for better work opportunities about 2 years ago. We met when she was still new to the country, and we hit it off pretty quickly. I mean, we became inseparable very fast. From my side, I shared every secret and insecurity, and I thought that she had done the same for me. Well, 2 weeks ago, my girlfriend of 2 years dropped some incredible news on me at 3 o'clock in the morning after my work shift. She no longer felt that the vibe was there because we haven't hung out properly in 3 weeks. For context, we normally do something every weekend or like every second weekend, but for the last month, both of our daily lives have just been really busy. She had to change jobs and move like 2 hours away, whereas she used to live like 5 minutes down the road and stayed over every weekend and some nights during the week itself. So basically, she hit me with this curveball after I finished my night shift and expected me to just roll with it and not ask why. She also didn't really have many good excuses for her reasoning, and we were both just drained, so we slept on it. Well, the following morning, I asked her if it was really what she wanted, and she said it is what's best for me and my future, which I disagreed because I'm madly in love with her. However, she said she had a secret that she kept from me for like 2 years, ever since we had met, and that once I learned about it, I would probably never speak to her again. So without beating around the bush, she basically told me that she has a son who is now 3 years old, and the reason she moved here was to support his upbringing. And let me tell you something, obviously when I heard this, I was a bit lost for words, but also I was kind of relieved because it's only a kid, and not that she had like some secret marriage or something like that. She gave me a month to weigh the situation and decide if I would like to continue the relationship or even leave if I wanted to. But what's funny is that it took me like 3 days of thinking about it, and I basically concluded that I could never face myself in the mirror again if I didn't at least try. In my eyes, I could be 5 years down the line and just hating myself for not trying for someone I love. So with work and everything else, I couldn't really see her until the following weekend. We kept in touch, but getting any conversation from her was really strained. So after I finished work, I drove the 2 hours to her house, and at 5 o'clock in the morning, I called her that I was outside and that we needed to talk. When we got inside her house, I confessed there and then that I want to try for her and her son, to which she replied that it was her choice as well, and that she had to think if I was what was best for her son. Now, bear in mind, I have a decent job, I'm great with kids, and I have told her on multiple occasions how I'd love to be a father in the future, and I also don't think raising another man's child means that he doesn't need a father figure. I told her it's fine, and that I can also give her a month to decide too if that's what she wants, but it only took her like an hour to say no, and that it's best if we just end it now, and that way I can find someone else to have a family with. In the end, she said she was open to staying friends though, and honestly, this all really sucks. I've barely eaten or slept in the last 2 weeks with everything going on. So do I give her more time and hope that she changes her mind? Or do I just like agree to be friends with her and move on? I won't be dating for a long time after this anyways, but seriously, I need some advice because I don't know what to do. Okay, I gotta be completely honest with you, and I hope this doesn't come off as mean, but someone hiding the fact that they have a kid from you for 2 years, in my opinion, is a giant red flag. Like, holy crap, did you get off lucky? I don't really know about anyone else, but I would be livid if I found out my girlfriend secretly had a kid. Because my God, that's something you want to know about like, oh, I don't know, a year and 11 months earlier? Like, what are we talking about? You can't just hide that kind of information for 2 years and think I'm gonna be okay with it. So sure, I feel bad for the original poster, like they were clearly game to help raise this kid, but at the end, the girlfriend's like, actually, I don't think you're the right person for my son. Sorry about that. And honestly, I think with all things considered, this is probably like a blessing in disguise. Because this is the kind of information you don't really want to keep like separated from your partner. You probably want them to know this like upfront and probably right away. So the fact that she hid this from you is really weird, and I think it's probably better that you find somebody else. If you like Am I the Jerk and what we're doing over here, please check out Am I the Genius. It's going to be linked down below in the description. Just click and go ahead and subscribe to them. And also, if you have your own stories you want to submit, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you want to submit your own stories. We're reading them all the time and we're picking out the best ones, so trust me, we would love to hear what you have to say. Am I the jerk for not driving a friend over to a city nearby just so she can buy last-minute ingredients for the cake she was making for the bride-to-be? Because after I said no, she pretty much just painted me as a bad guy and essentially tried to blame the entire situation on me specifically, all because I literally wasn't available. And now after reflecting on it, I'm kind of second-guessing my decision here. And at this point, I just don't know what to do. Okay, so my friend Katie has been trying to launch a wedding cake business. She started advertising using stock images. And when she was talking to some people, they asked if she took a course, and she said yes. I asked her about it afterwards, and she said that she hasn't taken any really, but didn't want to admit that to people, so they trusted her and hired her. She's done some very small cake examples ever since then, and to me, they're not really professional quality or wedding cake worthy, but maybe if she's offering cheap prices to get started, it's justified, and she can just improve with practice over time. Well, our mutual friend, who I will call Lily, is getting married tomorrow, and ever since the start of the year, Katie pressured her into letting her do her wedding cake, and she didn't so much as ask. Instead, she basically said, "Oh, I'm gonna do it," and said that she'll only charge for ingredients and materials. Now, Lily is a bit of a pushover, so she ended up saying okay without any discussion, and it's here that Katie said that her goal was to use this to kickstart her business with a cake she's made for a real wedding. Well, fast forward to yesterday evening with 1 day left to go till the wedding, and it's here that Katie asked me to drive her the next day to get specific ingredients for the cake that she can only source from another city. She knew I had taken a day off, and whilst Katie drives herself too, she refuses to drive out of the local area as she's too scared to do so. But I said, I can't really do that. I specifically took the day off to prepare for the wedding. Everything I need to do, from picking out my outfit and wedding present and getting my hair done, is being done today. I also expressed shock that with 1 day to go, she still needed to source essential ingredients for the cake. Well, when I said that, Katie got angry, pulling a face and saying, "Well, why didn't you get all your stuff done already?" As if I was really disorganized and messed her up. I then said that I didn't need to get it done by now. I've literally taken a day off specifically to do all of it. Well, Katie then said that if I didn't take her, then the cake was going to be ruined. But I said to her, "I'm sorry, but I can't do it." And she's known for months about this cake that she was so desperate to make. I spent the day getting my errands done, and then this evening we all met for a pre-wedding gathering. When Katie was coming towards me, she had an accusing and angry look on her face. She said to me, "I had to go on the train by myself," as if I made her suffer, and how it was really hard and it took ages to get to the station. The poor thing had to wait for the train, walk to the place that she needed, and do the same thing back. She also said how she almost wasn't able to make it, and how this drastically cut down the time she had to work on the cake. She then looked away as if she can't bear to be around me at all. Well, ever since then, she's expressed to people that I wasn't willing to help ensure the wedding cake wasn't ruined for the bride. And sure, I know I didn't technically do anything wrong here, but when she framed it like that, it did give me pause. That even though Katie was wrong, like, should I have just actually dropped my stuff and still done it for the sake of ensuring things weren't ruined for the bride? So seriously, am I the jerk in this situation? Like, did I make a mistake by not doing more about this situation? Because now I'm kind of questioning everything. Holy crap, I can't stand people who do this. They literally get hired for something and then suddenly it's everybody else's problem. Suddenly it's the original poster's fault if it doesn't get done, instead of the person who is masquerading as a professional in this field. Like, bro, if you're going to be launching a wedding cake business, then you need to stand on business. If that cake doesn't get done in time, that's on you. Not on your friend for not driving you around, not on the train conductor for not getting there fast enough. It literally falls on Katie's shoulders. Like, this is no one's fault except for hers. She knew about this for months, and like, what, she still waited until the last second? Like, holy crap, I would never hire someone like this. So if this was me and I was being accused of stuff like this, where I'm being made to look like the bad guy, dude, you better believe I'm gonna correct that crap. I would pull out receipts and show exactly what I was doing that day, and basically describe that, oh yeah, Katie waited till the last second to do the cake. You know, the professional wedding cake business owner, yeah, she waited until the very last second, and is somehow making it my fault that she can't do her job. Like, screw that, I'm not gonna be set up to take the blame for your cake looking like crap. So no, you're not the jerk, but in my opinion, you have every right to correct her and make sure she's not tarnishing your name. Because bro, if that was me, I would absolutely jump down her neck and be like, no, you're not gonna say that about me. Am I the jerk for refusing to babysit my nephew for a week, as my sister and her husband suddenly decide to go on vacation? But after watching this demon child one too many times, I told them firmly that I'm absolutely not watching this kid again, resulting in one of the biggest temper tantrums I've ever seen from my sibling in my entire life. And now I seriously just don't know what to do anymore. Here's what's currently happening. Okay, so my older sister is married to her husband, and they have a 6-year-old son. And to be completely honest, their life has always been a bit unstable. Her husband might quit his job just because he's tired of it, and then spend months looking for a new one. They're constantly short on money, and sometimes they have debts, and sometimes they borrow from our parents. But for me, on the other hand, everything is calm. I work in IT, I have a decent salary, I have no kids, and I live alone. Because of this, for the past 3 years, I've often helped them with my nephew. At first, it was manageable, just sitting with him for an evening or taking him for the weekend once a month, but then somehow it gradually became almost an obligation for me, especially because the kid is a real handful. normal. I get that kids can be noisy, but the problem here is specifically how he's being raised. Like, they hardly ever say no to him. If he breaks something, the usual reaction is, well, he's just a kid or you're overreacting, with them excusing it by saying, oh, it's normal when kids break something. One time he was throwing toys around and smashed my monitor. Another time he took my gamepad even though I told him right away not to touch it, and guess what? He broke the joystick. The worst part was with my work laptop. I stepped into the kitchen for just a couple of minutes, and within that time he spilled juice on it and started laughing. And trust me, the repair cost a pretty penny. My sister said that they couldn't help out with money right now because they were going through a tough time. But after that, I started agreeing to babysit him less often, especially since I had a girlfriend because I wanted to spend more time with her. My sister recently wrote to say that they had finally saved up enough money for a week-long vacation and they were really looking forward to some time alone together. She asked me to take my nephew in for a whole week since my vacation overlaps with theirs, and that's when I really lost it. I asked how it was that they had money for vacation but never had any money to pay for the things that their son broke, and why is it that my vacation was automatically considered free time for their child? Well, when I said this, my sister immediately started crying. Her husband started saying that I was counting every penny and that I wasn't acting like family at all. And even my parents are giving me side remarks about this. But the most infuriating thing is that no one even asked if I actually wanted to spend my vacation this way. And now look, I get it. She's kind of having a hard time right now and she's really tired. But I seriously feel like I've been stuck in the role as like a backup parent and I'm trying to get out of it. So seriously, am I really the jerk here? Like, did I seriously cross a line that can't be fixed? Because I really am just so annoyed and I just don't know what to do. Oh my God, your sister sucks and so does her husband. What do you mean this kid broke your computer and they didn't help pay for it? Him pouring juice all over it probably fried that computer and cost you probably like hundreds of dollars just to fix it, if not more, depending on like the type of laptop that was. Like, bro, no wonder you don't want to babysit this little nightmare. Like, holy crap, this kid is destroying everything in its wake, smashing your monitor and your joystick, pouring juice on your laptop and then laughing about it. Like, dude, if I saw a kid laughing at me after destroying like a very expensive piece of equipment, well, I don't think I can say what would happen in this video because that's a good way of getting it taken down, but I think you can use your imagination. Let's just say I'd be very pissed off, and I think anyone would be. Like, there is nothing worse than the spoiled, rotten laughter of a brat who just destroyed something precious in your life. I've experienced that in certain ways, but never with like a work laptop. Holy crap. And it's so funny, your sister, the second she gets any kind of resistance, the second you say, no, I'm not gonna do that, your kid's a demon, she suddenly breaks into tears and is just like, oh, I just don't know what to do. I can't believe you're doing this to us. And it's like, dude, you literally planned your vacation so that it would bleed into my vacation, which by the way, I could do whatever I want with, just so I could watch your stupid demon child, which guess what? I ain't doing it. My life is peaceful, bro. I like my life. There's no kids anywhere. I live alone. I have a good salary and I like keeping that salary instead of spending it on fixing the crap your son destroys. So no, you are not the jerk. Screw everybody. If your parents are really this bent out of shape about it, then they can watch the kid. Or your sister can take the kid with them on vacation and they can see firsthand that, yeah, our kid is a demon that we need to exorcise. Because the way these people are reacting to this is completely uncalled for and you don't deserve it for a second. Am I the jerk for withholding concert tickets I bought for my friends after they literally ditched me to go into a club I wasn't welcomed into? Because now it's causing a lot of drama between the three of us and I simply don't know if I made a mistake. Here's what happened. Okay, so I want to start off by saying that I'm a 21-year-old female and I have two close friends who I will call for the sake of the story Lily and Kate. And yes, those are fake names. These are friends I made during university and the both of them are very conventionally attractive. And yes, this will be an important detail later on. Me on the other hand, I am basically not like that. I'm hygienic, I groom myself really well, I've tried all the conventional tips for appearances, however, I have a very large nose, I've got a wide boxy jaw, and it honestly just makes me not conventionally attractive. We graduated university this year and decided to celebrate with the Miami trip. I bought us all concert tickets for tonight, since Lily used some of her hotel points to get us a large suite to stay in. Meanwhile, Kate picked out a club that she wanted to go to for Friday night. I know Miami has a reputation for being picky about what girls they let into clubs, so I did my makeup and hair as best as I could. I wore one of the prettiest and fanciest dresses that I own, but once we got there and dealt with the bouncer, he only let Lily and Kate in, but not me. Lily hesitated and tried to convince him to let me in too, but he wouldn't budge. Eventually, they both shot me a grimace and said they wouldn't be too long at the club, and honestly, I felt so humiliated walking away. I've been feeling really down since that, and I'm honestly frankly offended by their behavior of just ditching me. I don't want to go to the concert tonight, and after they pushed me on it, I told them that I wasn't going to give them the tickets that I bought for them either. Kate is now pretty mad at me, and Lily has said that she's disappointed with my decision. So with all things in consideration, am I really the jerk for not giving over these concert tickets? Because this whole scenario really hurts and I don't know what to do. Okay, I'm going to say it for you. Lily and Kate are terrible people. They literally ditched you and went into this club without you when they should have stood by your side and said, screw this place, we'll go somewhere else. Like, this is so unacceptable. I would have happily given that bouncer the middle finger and been like, oh, you don't want my friend to go in? Then congratulations, you lost 2 people going into your club. See ya. Like, what was Kate and Lily thinking? This is a terrible decision, dude. You left your friend high and dry and you thought, oh, it's gonna be fine. We won't be too long in the club. Enjoy sitting outside because you're too ugly to go in. Like, my God, your friends suck. So yeah, this is kind of like fighting fire with fire, but honestly, your friends totally deserve it. If you can even call them friends after this, I wouldn't. Also, in the comment section, someone brought something up that I really didn't even think about. You literally were walking around downtown in Miami alone. You had nobody with you and you were walking alone as a female downtown. That's not meant to sound as like, oh wow, he hates women, but like seriously, if there's anyone that's gonna be like the victim of some kind of crime, it's gonna be a woman by herself in downtown Miami. Like, oh my God, that is so dangerous. So yeah, your friends suck across the board. This is really unacceptable. So with all that in mind, I think you are definitely not the jerk, and this is just them getting a taste of their own medicine. Am I the jerk for considering asking my sister to step down as a bridesmaid? Because quite literally, she's made this entire process miserable. And at this point, I seriously just don't know what to do. Okay, for starters, I'm getting married in 2 months and I have 4 bridesmaids, one of them being my sister. I originally wanted my 12-year-old daughter to be one of my bridesmaids, but she's very shy and didn't want to stand in front of nearly 200 guests. So I asked my sister to do it instead. I'm paying for the bridesmaid dress, the alterations, the hair, and the makeup. The only thing I asked the girls to buy themselves was like these open-toed shoes so they could at least wear them again afterwards and it wouldn't be like a huge waste of money. When ordering my sister's dress, she told me what size to get, but when I bought it, it didn't fit, so I had to return it and order another size. The larger size ended up costing nearly double the price because I needed a specific color and stock was really limited, but you know what? I bought it anyways, and it ended up fitting perfectly except for like minor bust and waist alterations. The real issue started when I asked everyone to get those open-toe shoes. My sister replied saying that she wanted white pointed closed-toe shoes because she didn't like showing her toes. And I thought they looked too bridal, but instead of arguing, I just left it for a bit. Then I made a group chat with the bridesmaids saying that I wanted everyone's hair in an up style. And my sister just said, oh, I didn't want my hair all the way back because I'm insecure about my forehead, saying that she wanted a half up and half down style instead. I then privately messaged her asking if she had gotten the shoes yet because previously she said she couldn't afford them. I even sent her links to shoes that were like literally $15 if that. Well, she replied saying that she still didn't want the open-toe shoes and would probably have to return the ones that she wanted. At that point, I got frustrated. I then told her that she was the only bridesmaid having issues with every request, and this is like between the shoes and the hair, and that I was almost afraid to bring up the makeup request next. So I asked her to send me inspiration photos for the hairstyle that she wanted. She has shoulder-length hair, but the photos she sent were like long, curly, half-up styles that, realistically speaking, would need extensions. I checked with a hairdresser and she agreed extensions would probably be needed. My sister then said she definitely didn't want extensions, so I suggested it would just be easier if everyone had similar up styles. Well, the conversation escalated after that. She said the wedding was making her anxious because she doesn't know what's going on. But at this stage, the only things finalized are the dress, the shoes, and the hairstyle. I'm already stressed out of my mind planning the wedding. So you know what? I told her that if being a bridesmaid was causing her this much stress, that she just didn't have to do it. But when I said that, she got upset and demanded that I send her every detail immediately, and things became pretty heated at that point. She then asked me multiple times if I even wanted her standing beside me at the altar, and now I'm kind of wondering if I should ask her to step down, because honestly, it feels like every conversation begins an argument. Plus, it's adding stress I really just don't need right now, but I also don't know if I'm being too controlling over her hair and shoes. So seriously, am I the jerk here? Because I really just don't know what to do next. Dude, I don't know about you, but it sounds like your sister is really high-strung and should probably not be a bridesmaid in your wedding. Like seriously, this is so easy. All she has to do is say, yes, I'll just look like the way you want me to look, and then leave it at that. Like who cares? This isn't your wedding, dude. Just do what I'm telling you to do. The fact that she's giving you any kind of grief about this is really annoying. So yeah, if I was in your shoes and I was like planning out this wedding, I would be like, please just step down. This is not worth my time. You're stressing me out, you're stressing everybody out, and honestly, I don't want to deal with it because she is making this entire process super hard hard, and like that is really obnoxious and I would hate to deal with that. An entitled jerk decided that he didn't want to contribute to our group assignment, but also somehow still expected to have his name on the final product. So me and the rest of the group decided to get some petty revenge by not only taking this guy's name off of our group assignment, but also forcing him to come to terms with the way he's been acting. Here's what happened. Okay, for starters, this happened back in my last semester. In my major, there is this guy, and for the sake of the story, we'll call him Peter. Peter is well known to be a good-for-nothing person when it comes to doing tasks from the professor, and Peter is a loner. Not the, oh, I'm so smart and I like to be alone type of person, more like I'm a loner and I'm not a very smart one at that. And this professor we had to deal with is the type of professor that no matter how hard you worked or how good and perfect it might be, you will rarely get an A. Now this professor gave us a group project of writing paper and presenting it for a final assignment, and the score of the assignment is used for 40% of the final grade of the class. So these assignments are very much the deciding point of whether you pass the class or not, as getting a 60 and below means you failed. The professor gave us a free choice to choose our group members. I chose 2 people that I know would do well, and one other person who's good friends with one of the other 2 people. When the assignments are announced, we got 3 months to do it. As I mentioned earlier, the professor rarely gives out an A. He mostly gave you a B, and if you're lucky, you'll get a B+. So me and the other 3 members work on the paper and presentation for 3 months. When the deadline is close, maybe about 4 days into the deadline, we pretty much have finished all of it and have submitted our assignments. We felt free and unburdened from the assignments, and we thought there will be no problem. But my God, how wrong we were. The day of the deadline, Peter decided to contact one of the members of our group, and he was asking when we would do the assignments. Now, the person that is contacted by Peter forwarded the messages to the group chat. All of us are completely dumbfounded as we didn't even know he joined our group. So I contacted the teaching assistant about it, and as it turns out, the last group or so doesn't have enough members. So they decided to dissolve the group and scatter the members of said group to other groups. And when I asked when this happened, the teaching assistant told me that it had been dissolved 2 months prior. They also then asked me why I'm asking such a thing. So I explained what had happened to her. Well, they didn't like that one bit, and she seriously thought we just weren't reaching out to team members and that we were bullying him because he's a loner. Now, I was pretty upset with the teaching assistant, but mostly towards Peter. It turns out Peter also has contacted the teaching assistant about apparently being ignored by the member that he contacted. So I asked the member that is contacted by Peter to screenshot all the messages that Peter sent, as well as the day of the messages, and then I forwarded all of that to the teaching assistant. The assistant then said that she'll talk to Peter about it, and then after a few hours, the assistant asked me to let Peter join the group chat. So we reluctantly did. When Peter joins the group, he asked which part of the presentation is his to present, and it was right at that moment a fight between all the group members started. And this all comes down to the fact that Peter wants to present this topic, but the person who made said topic rejects that and said it's theirs to present. Peter then claims another topic, and other members already claim said topic. Well, after this back and forth, Peter protested to the assistant for not being given a topic to present. Well, because the paper was already being submitted, the assistant's suggestion was for Peter to research a topic that is not on the presentation and to add that to the presentation slides. So at least Peter will get the presentation score. Well, Peter didn't like that one bit. Not only would he have to research a topic, but also he will miss the score of the paper, which is the big part of the score. Peter and the assistant argued back and forth until Peter decided to threaten the assistant by saying he will report them to administration about the group for bullying, as well as the assistant and professor for letting the group bully him. Peter also said, "Well, where's your credibility as a teaching assistant?" Well, the assistant didn't like that one bit, and apparently they had had enough of Peter. The assistant then took a screenshot of the entire fight and sent it all to me. Well, Peter did report us, to which the administration contacted the assistant for an explanation, after which the administration also asked the group members about why we didn't include him and all this other information. Around the same time administration asked us about this, I suddenly remembered that Peter and I share 4 classes that we are enrolled in, and 2 of the 4 also have group assignments in which me and Peter are in one group. So I screenshotted all the messages from those 2 groups' group chat, and I showed the administration that in these 2 group chats, never did Peter mention once about the current assignments, namely the paper and presentation. So his claim of bullying him is invalid because he never mentioned it until the day of the deadline, and he never contacted other members of the group about it. So the administration decided it was up to the group whether or not to include his name on the assignment. And you know what? We absolutely didn't. After this whole fiasco ends and the semester ends, when I enrolled to this semester, I noticed that Peter isn't in any of my classes, nor is he in classes that I'm not a part of. Well, I did some asking to the administration, and it turns out Peter was failing most of his classes last semester, and he would have to wait for one semester so that he can fix his score by re-enrolling to the classes he failed. So as a result, I won't be seeing Peter this semester, and honestly, with all things considered, I think I prefer it that way. Oh man, I cannot stand group assignments, especially in school. Because here's the thing, you either have team members who really care and they're there to get the job done, or you have a bunch of deadbeats like Peter in this story who will absolutely not get anything done. They'll show up at the last second, they will derail your entire process, and then they try to complain as if they're not the reason why this all fell apart. Like seriously, this is so annoying it's not even funny. So good for you for not only keeping a good record of what actually happened, but also not letting this guy ruin your project, because as far as I'm concerned, that is exactly what he would have done. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for asking my sister to pay me back the money that she owes me after she literally spent all of it and said she's not paying me back anytime soon? Because now my mother's involved and I'm honestly feeling very cornered. And at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my sister trades shares and doesn't really have a job. This month, I loaned her about $1,000 because she started crying in front of me that she wanted to apply for some shares that she's entitled to but doesn't have the money. Well, when she started crying, my dumb emotional self lent her the money, and I didn't think a second about it because she had returned the money I had lent her earlier. Well, the shares got listed and she got them. However, she is not able to sell them now because apparently there's a problem, as it seems like they're all about to go down to zero. Well, at this point, I panicked, and I asked her when she was going to return the money, and she said she would when she's able to sell the shares. But it's not like she doesn't have the money. She has it tied up in all these other shares. She said she will not sell any shares to pay me back, and that I will have to wait till she's able to sell the shares. We then got into a huge fight, and she said she will not return the money. She then got my mother involved, and my mother kept on telling me that because I'm older and the older sister, I do so much for my younger sisters, and then asking me why I'm being so money-minded. But it's like I just lost my job and I have a handful of savings, and I've already lent money to my dad because he needed it, and now her. None of them seems to feel the need to return it, despite me asking for it multiple times. My sister kept telling me that I do not know the art of getting money out of people, and that if I want my money back, I would have to be sweet to her. I've already seen my extended family members taking advantage of dad and mooching off of him for several years. So I got furious because I could see my sister becoming just the same. So seriously, am I the wrong for getting scared and asking for the money? For real, my mom and sister, instead of understanding where I'm coming from, they are frustrated that I'm literally picking fights for such a small amount. They keep on saying that I'm frustrated because I just lost my job. When we got into the fight, my mother started crying that she cannot believe that her daughter can be so money-minded, and then the topic's just over. And now, as a result, both of them are not talking to me. I honestly don't know how to handle this because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, first off, no, you're not the jerk for being like, hey, you need to pay me back, because this is not some small amount. This is $1,000 you just coughed up and gave to your sister. And first of all, I hope you know that you can never trust her with money probably ever again. Like, she's gonna need to do a lot of proving that she can actually, like, I don't know, pay you back on time, especially after this moment right here. Like, this behavior is so weird, there's no reason for this. And I also hate the fact that your mom's trying to jump on this gravy train and be like, wow, you're being so money-minded. You're the older sister, you need to act like it. And it's like, where's the accountability for your other daughter? Because she took $1,000 to buy some shares that she can't sell now, and now you're defending this daughter for not paying it back? Like, are you kidding me right now? So yeah, your mom and sister are being super toxic, and you do not deserve this in the slightest. Am I the jerk for refusing to keep loaning a roommate money, also that he can go to funerals for his children who are passing away? Because right now he is guilt-tripping me hard, and at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I'm a 38-year-old physically disabled male, currently living in a group home until I can regain my mobility and independence. Over the past year or so, I've developed a friendship with another resident who isn't great at managing their money. I'm the type of guy who likes helping people, and someone that people go to seeking advice or at least support. And over that time, I loaned him about $600. Now, he would make some payments, but often I would ask for that amount back within a week. But eventually, I put my foot down and I stopped loaning him money. But then, one of his 3 daughters passed away, and then the second one died of an illness. months. So I gave him more money in loans and in gifts to help him with these extraordinary times. I probably loaned him about $150 and then gave him $100 for travel to see his family and to help with a headstone and flowers. Well, a week ago, his last remaining daughter's son passed away of COVID, and I decided to give him another $110 loan for travel and funeral expenses, but right now he still wants more. I'm on a fixed income right now, and will probably be for at least the next year and a half. I've basically written this money off in my mind, but I feel I can't just keep throwing money at him. Right now he wants money for dress clothing, or he says he won't go to his grandson's services. It's tearing his daughter up, and it feels like the emotional blackmail he's used against me before when he keeps telling me a true friend would help out. My family say I'm in the right for cutting him off, but it honestly hurts my heart. I just need people unconnected to the situation to give me their opinion. So honestly, am I the jerk for not giving this guy any more money? Because right now I don't know what to do. No, you're definitely not the jerk. This guy is clearly taking advantage of you. He keeps coming back to you for hundreds of dollars at a time. And sure, I get it. His family's passing away and he has sons and daughters who are no longer alive. But seriously, you can only give so much money. Like, you've almost given him $1,000 in total. You're not some endless piggy bank that he can withdraw money from whenever he wants. So no, you're not the jerk for putting your foot down. Because in my opinion, this guy is not a good friend. Because the way he's treating you, in my opinion, is completely unacceptable. Am I the jerk for kicking my partner's dad and family out of my house after they refuse to take their shoes off when entering my home? Because right now, my husband thinks I'm the jerk, and at this point, I honestly don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So for a bit of backstory, it was my daughter's first birthday. My partner is white and I am Asian. It has been the norm in our household to keep shoes off when we're at home, and we also wear indoor footwear and slippers. I've always kept spa slippers for guests in a variety of sizes, just in case some are not comfortable in going barefoot. I've always kept my house cleaned and always maintained having outdoor shoes and footwear off when inside our house. Not only does it make cleaning the floors easy, but the thought of carrying germs inside is gross and scary to me. It's also a cultural norm for us as well to keep shoes off as a sign of respect to the owners of the house. Well, at this point, my daughter's birthday has come, and the first few guests have arrived and have taken the cue that their shoes should be off. And I've offered spa slippers, and some were happy to wear them, and some just went barefoot inside. Well, this is where my partner's dad and his fiance arrive, along with their children. Well, they came in straight away with their filthy shoes still on, like really gross looking shoes. They were definitely not clean looking, and you could see the dirt sticking to my tiles. I told my partner to tell them to take off their shoes, please, because the other guests were happy to comply, and I thought that they would do the same. Well, they didn't do that, and they just kept walking around inside with the shoes on and stepping on the rugs and mats with it. I politely asked him again, but his dad grunted and said, "Our shoes are clean, we always wash them weekly." I then pointed out the dirt on the floor, and he said it's the dirt from when they walked on our front yard, so it's mainly part of the house. I explained again that kids, and most especially his grandchildren, crawls around on our floor, and since it is her birthday, they need to take their shoes off the mat where she crawls. Well, this time he seems offended and started to ask why I'm making such a big deal out of wearing shoes inside when this is a party anyways, and I'm ruining such an important day because I could not bend a little rule for one day. He then tried to tell me that it is white people's culture to not take their shoes off. Well, at that point, I lost it, and I said they can get out of my house if they can't do a simple request. Well, they eventually left, and my partner said I shouldn't have just let them go since they traveled quite far to come for our daughter's birthday, and that I'm a jerk for not being considerate for only one day. Now, it's important to know that before having our baby, when they used to visit, they know that we have a shoes off rule at our old apartment. My partner has always pointed this out to them, but I would not make a fuss about it because they only see us on occasion. We're talking maybe once or twice a year. But this time though, we moved to a bigger house, and I have a 1-year-old that crawls all around, and it's mainly because there are other babies and kids there too in the play area. I was adjusting to the thought that they can wear shoes on other areas of the house except for her play mat, which is a very large foam and soft play mat that covers most of the room. But they literally didn't want to follow on that either. Even their children didn't take off their shoes when they started to hang out with the other kids to play, and that's where the blow up completely happened. So am I the jerk for the way things were handled? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, honestly, I don't think you're the jerk at all. These people knew the rules of the house and they refused to follow it. And it's like, dude, if you go to somebody else's house, you have to follow their rules. And I don't think that's asking a lot. I know when people step into my house, they're absolutely taking their shoes off, and I'm going to automatically do that for their house as well. So for this guy to be like, oh, it's white people culture not to take off their shoes. Like, seriously, what are you talking about? That is not some white person culture. That's just you being super selfish and not listening to the person who owns the house. So no, you're not the jerk for kicking these people out, because if I was in your shoes, I would have done the exact same thing. dying. My awful mother has turned my entire family against me, and at this point, on the cusp of my grandfather's funeral, I'm being told that my grandma doesn't want me there. And right now, I feel completely devastated and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my grandfather died recently. He was my entire world and I am completely devastated. I'm a very introverted person and I was late diagnosed as autistic a few months ago. So generally, I just keep to myself, which has caused a general distancing from my family, but there hasn't really been any drama. They just don't regularly message me and vice versa. When my grandfather was dying, I visited my grandparents and I said a lovely goodbye. I got to see him laugh and smile one last time, which I will always treasure. And when he passed away, I called and gave condolences to all the immediate family and I sent some cards. I also arranged for a wreath saying granddad to be ordered, all with the consent from the family. Well, this is where my mother enters the story. My mother has some severe and significant mental illnesses that she has never had diagnosed or even had support for. Without describing it forever, it seems like she gets a thrill out of being perceived as a victim or suffering at the hands of others. She would always tell little white lies, saying she'd been attacked or insulted in the street by strangers or in stores. She bought and sold over 14 puppies in my childhood and told us that each one had died horrific and tragic deaths where only she was present. She would sob and throw herself across furniture and be very dramatic. Later on, when the internet became a thing, we found the adverts. We didn't say anything, and once the next pet was sold, she did the same thing again. She was faking traumatic and painful ways that these animals had passed away in her arms in ways that made her get a lot of attention and sympathy. So I think you get the idea of the kind of woman my mom is. There's something significantly not right with her mental health, and she has severely verbally, emotionally, and mentally mistreated me for my entire childhood. And she was insanely paranoid. She was jealous and had intense fits of rage. Over a year ago, I went no contact when I found out that she'd been telling very serious lies about me to my sister and my aunt, telling them that I would abandon my children with her and that no one would contact me, that she was raising my children and that I was an unfit mother and that she was suffering terribly because of me. In reality, she lived at the bottom of my street and just saw the children for a few minutes every single day. I now think she's been sowing seeds throughout my family for years, and my social anxiety and introvertedness has allowed this to happen as she knew me, and the relatives would never cross wires to speak about the things that she was telling them that I'd done. I think she was resentful of me going no contact and has doubled her efforts in the time since. Well, out of the blue, my mother called me to inform me that my grandma was very upset with me over something that I had apparently done, and that she had asked my mom to call me and let me know that I'm forbidden to attend my grandfather's funeral and that apparently I'm disowned. And right now, I'm heartbroken. I don't understand what has happened or why my family wouldn't contact me if they were upset with me, or even try to contact me to clarify with myself if they heard anything about me that upset them. I asked my mother on the phone what on earth happened, as I had not said or done anything that could cause offense, and she blamed it on my grandmother's declining mental health and suggested that it must be a misunderstanding and that she would race over to my grandma's house to sort it out. Well, hours later, she told me that she hadn't bothered to contact any of them. Now, I was hesitant to contact my grandmother and cause further upset because this reeks of my mother having caused drama with some kind of lie. However, my aunt lives with her and we were close. Any calls, text messages, Facebook messages, voicemails all just went unanswered. Then either the phone was turned off or I was blocked, as everything went right to voicemail. None of my messages have been read as far as I can tell. I think my mother has basically told my family something very offensive or hurtful, to the extent that none of them will even message me to tell me what it is that they've been told that I've done. What my mother told me on the phone did not make any sense whatsoever. She said that my grandma just got upset, and apparently it was over nothing. She would say to me, "You did nothing wrong. She just burst out crying and said that you're not coming to the funeral." My mother did mention reading out a message where I was describing having a nightmare about the funeral, where a relative got angry at me because my late son's name was mentioned at the funeral and another relative's late child was not. But here's the thing, it was just a dream. I said it had made my social anxiety so bad. But there's no way this can be the cause of all of this. My mother and I had only been speaking since my grandfather's death, and she had shared her grief and regrets and shared my social anxiety. I mean, we barely spoke at all. Obviously, she is lying and missing something out. I suspect my mother has told my grandmother that I demanded my late child's name not be mentioned, as at the beginning of the call, she said that she's upset because I said that my late child's name should not be mentioned. But when I corrected her and said that I didn't say that, she would then backpedal and say my grandma must have misheard or something like that and just got the wrong end of the stick, and that my mom was apparently on my side and would sort it out because I didn't do anything. I'm honestly just so devastated. I can't understand why she's like this, or even how I should proceed. I barely survived an attempt only a few months ago. It's what led to my autism diagnosis when the doctors realized during my inpatient stay that it was apparently quite obvious. I'm sure I'm safe, but the fact that she would do this to me now and have me disowned and told me I'm forbidden to attend my granddad's funeral is honestly horrific. I don't think it would be appropriate to bother my grandmother when she's apparently distressed and grief-stricken, but I'm so hurt that my messages begging for an explanation have not been read. So is this a thing that some people do? Because right now I'm at a complete loss and I seriously don't know what to do. Oh man, your mom sounds awful. Seriously, she does not sound right in the head, and if I was in your shoes, I would ignore anything she tells me because it's probably some kind of lie. When she says that she's gonna go in and take care of everything, that honestly in my opinion is just BS. She's only doing this to try and stir the pot and punish you for cutting her off. And your grandfather passing away is the perfect chance for her to try and do that. And that is so toxic. I'm so sorry she's doing that. But in my opinion, if I was in your shoes, and I can only say what I would do because you know the situation way better than I do, I would absolutely go straight to my grandma and figure out what's going on. I would see if she actually does not want me in her life anymore and if she really is disowning me. Because in my opinion, what your mom is saying is most likely a lie, and you do not deserve to be treated this way in the slightest. My entitled boss is giving discounts to his friends, pricing them at a much lower rate for my goods and services, which as a result means that I get a lower paycheck. And even though I've discussed this so many times with my boss, he refuses to pay me exactly what I'm worth. So I decided to get some revenge by literally wasting as much money from this company as possible as my own form of payback for the way that they've been treating me. Here's what happened. Okay, for a bit of context, I work in a service industry, namely pest control, that pays me a percentage of what my customer pays as an extra paycheck on top of my normal hourly rate paychecks. For example, if I go to a customer whose bill is $100, I get $20. If I'm out sick that day and a coworker goes, they get it instead. Each month the grand total is added up, a certain dollar value is removed for company baseline, and of what remains, I get 20%. And it is a bit more complex than this, but that's all that's really needed for the story. Now, my boss has a bad habit of giving discounts to friends of his, and it's usually below the company minimums that have been set for me and my coworkers if we were to sell the work ourselves. The problem is that despite these people not being my friends, I still got assigned to do the work, and now that customer has paid less, so I get paid less. I have brought up to them multiple times over the years that if they want their friends to pay less, that's fine, but in the computer, I should get my cut as if it was based on the full current price that the market demands. Well, each time my boss's response has been to pull his phone out for his calculator and play off the $4 difference or whatever it is as insubstantial in the grand scheme of my total paycheck. They have so far proven incapable of understanding how disrespectful this is to me. But seriously, if it is such a meaningless and small amount, then why is it so hard to pay it to me? You know, the person who actually did the labor. Never mind the fact that not only do these stack up against me, but we are not a very financially successful company, and we just can't afford discounts. It's a matter of principle. Anyways, they are effectively pinching pennies out of my paycheck, and it's all justified under the current system because longtime customers also have similarly low prices. So it's just supposed to be considered one of those things. Now, nothing illegal is happening with my pay, strictly speaking, but instead there's just an absence of respect and morals. And you know what? This happened again despite recent discussions, and I'm now starting to snap. And it's right about now that my revenge takes place. I fill up my work truck usually every 3 days. So combined with all of the other employees, naturally the gasoline bill is a regular talking point about trying to keep it low. I've always had a strong work ethic and tried to do my part for efficiency even before the first time I heard the gas speech in a meeting. If I had a personal errand to run, which by the way is something we're allowed to do within reason, I would wait days or sometimes weeks until I was driving in that area. I was one of the first to go above and beyond and reorganize my routes, just so I was in one neighborhood per day, also that I could save gas. But at this point, after what they did to me, no longer. My work truck is GPS tracked, and if they ever stop being lazy enough to start checking, they are going to notice a sudden loss of efficiency. And you know what? If they ask, I'm going to pull out my calculator and suggest it's a negligible difference that they should just get over, because the way they're treating me is absolutely unfair. Wow, your boss sucks so bad. Seriously, he's giving discounts to his friends at your expense. You're literally losing money, and this guy's trying to be like, well, it's just $4. It's not that big of a deal. And it's like, dude, are you kidding me right now? This is my money you're screwing with. So yeah, you know what? If I was in your shoes, I would do the exact same thing. I would be so unproductive, and I would be looking for another job, because what you're describing doesn't sound like a good working environment in the slightest. And I definitely think you deserve way better than the way that they're treating you. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for adding my cousin as a bridesmaid after my sister said she's not attending my wedding? Because right now I'm still incredibly frustrated by my sister, and at this point I'm honestly not sure what to do next. Here's what happened. I'm a 24-year-old female and I'm getting married soon, and my older sister doesn't want to come. The issue started when she said I don't talk to her about anything wedding related, and she wouldn't be doing any kind of speech. She was supposed to be a bridesmaid, but she left the group chat and RSVP'd online saying that she was attending, but then later said that she's not attending. Now, I'm a people pleaser, and I've always had a hard time being the center of attention. I've never really had a moment to myself where I get to call the shots. For example, at my baby shower, even though I picked the Nightmare Before Christmas theme and wanted specific things, my soon-to-be mother-in-law, my sister, and aunt took control of the entire event. The theme was kept, but everything else was changed. And don't get me wrong, I appreciated the effort, but it wasn't what I imagined. I've never been one to ask for much, and I often felt left out growing up, never really getting new or expensive things for my birthday or holidays. I also don't like people spending too much money on me, but it's been really hard because I never get a moment to enjoy things for myself. So when my sister dropped out of the wedding, I added my cousin as a bridesmaid. She feels more like a sister to me, and she's been supportive throughout the whole wedding planning. I feel like my sister would be upset if she knew, but I don't want her back in the wedding party. I also want my nieces and nephews to be there, and my sister seems to crave attention and wants everything her way. For example, she suggested dancers for my bachelorette party, if you know what I mean, which is totally not my vibe since I am an introvert, and I just want to have a simple day that's about me. My sister-in-law was going to do the thank you speech because I have really bad anxiety, and I'm already feeling overwhelmed and stressed from the wedding planning, but I don't want my sister to feel like she's being excluded if she chooses to attend as a guest. I just want everything to go smoothly and to have a day where I can feel comfortable and at ease. So am I the jerk for adding my cousin as a bridesmaid and not wanting my sister back in the wedding party? She also didn't even ask me about her feeling left out, which I never intended to do. But she also never called or messaged me asking about details or anything. What should I do? Okay, in my opinion, this is a classic case of if they want to act weird, then let them. So if your sister really wants to back out because you didn't talk about this enough with her, then go ahead and let her. She has no right to be upset if you replace her for the stuff she doesn't want to do, because at the end of the day, this is your wedding. This is not hers. This is not your aunt's or your mother-in-law's. This is yours, and you absolutely have every say in what you do and don't want. So if she really doesn't want to talk to you about it and is acting like standoffish, then fine, don't show up and don't be a part of it, because that, in my opinion, is some weird energy, and you do not deserve that in the slightest. Am I the jerk for not getting my ex-roommate's mail to her in a timely manner, even though I asked her to change her address over a year ago? Because right now, she apparently has a large debt when it comes to tolls that she's ran through. And after she blamed me for all of this, while also claiming she would press charges against me, I now feel incredibly bad, and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my ex-roommate and I did not end on good terms. We were best friends, and I was looking to move out on my own. And when she suddenly lost her roommate, she asked me to move in with her. I told her I didn't like her area and that I was looking elsewhere. Then she decided to move out of her place and rent something with me instead. Now, I agreed because we were very good friends, and the rent would be cheaper. However, I made it clear that she needed to commit to the lease. Well, 3 months into the lease, she suddenly left without saying anything. Now, of course, I was upset because I had to find a new roommate. A few months later, she apologized and I accepted her apology. During this time, she explained the reason she left, and she admitted it was her fault and promised that this reason wouldn't get in the way of our friendship. She also promised that whenever we meet up, she wouldn't bring this reason into the picture. But unfortunately, that turned out to be a complete lie. Many of the things she promised not to do to rebuild our friendship, she just did anyways, and I eventually decided to remove her from my friend group. Throughout this time, I repeatedly asked her to change her address, and I gave her her mail. When she finally crossed a line, I simply couldn't tolerate it, and at that point, I just started forwarding her mail to her. Now, a year later, the mail I forwarded never reached her because she never updated her address, and her toll fines apparently accumulated to be pretty high. My ex-roommate now blames me because she didn't get her mail and says she's going to press charges against me. Now, I do feel bad, but she left that address over a year ago. I never felt it was my responsibility to manage her mail, and I simply didn't want any more contact with her. So am I the jerk for forwarding her mail instead of texting her and letting her know that I was still receiving it? Because right now she is still incredibly pissed off. No, you're not the jerk. This roommate sounds like an idiot. From my understanding, it's not that hard to switch your address. So it sounds like your roommate's just super lazy and she's somehow blaming you for this. So no, this is all her fault, and any debt get that she's getting, in my opinion, is her own problem. And the fact that she's trying to blame this on you, in my opinion, is completely ridiculous. My boyfriend has effectively steamrolled over all my boundaries when it comes to food, as he always demands to eat some of my food regardless of what it is or where we're at. But now, after dealing with this for so long, I seriously feel like I'm losing my mind, because at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my boyfriend and I have been together for about a year and a half. When we first started seeing each other, I was very clear and kind of straightforward about my boundaries around food. At the time, I didn't like to share what was on my plate. Whenever I had a snack or a meal or anything else, I would always make more than enough to share with my boyfriend if he was over at my place. But he always insisted on having a bite off of my plate. He did the same with anything I was drinking. He wouldn't want me to pour him his own, but would drink off of mine. He would also do things that I found a bit strange, like insisting that we eat out of the same bowl or plate and then use the same fork or spoon, just passing it back and forth between bites. I don't really like eating like this, and I expressed that, but he would say things like, "We're going to share and you're gonna like it," and just generally get pouty and tell me that I was being selfish and weird when I attempted to hold any kind of boundary on this front. Eventually, I learned to live with it. In fact, I actually started enjoying sharing food a lot more, and I now always offer a bite of what I'm eating, whether I'm at home or at a restaurant. I realize it's not okay to let someone steamroll over your boundaries like this, but I see the overall end result as positive. My boyfriend no longer does the dish sharing thing, but he will insist that I eat first, and then he will serve himself using my plate and fork. Now, this makes me sad because it means we often don't actually eat together, but it isn't the end of the world, so I don't really see a point in arguing. But even still, here's my issue. There are still times every once in a while where I don't want to share my food. This is rare, but it does happen, and it's made me fully realize that my boyfriend cannot take no for an answer when it comes to food. He simply has to eat a bite of my food or drink off of my drink, and I don't even think it's about him being hungry. At this point, I've taken to eating in secret if there's something I want to enjoy by myself, because seriously, I'd rather not deal with the hassle. He will also get upset if I eat a snack and I just don't tell him, like on the level where if he sees a wrapper in the trash can or something like that, or even something that I might have ate and I didn't mention or share it with him, he will confront me about it every single time. I just can't express enough that I don't think I'm a selfish or unreasonable person. I just don't always like sharing my food. How do I communicate this to my partner in a way that lets us have a productive conversation where I don't get shut down in some kind of way? I'm trying to reflect on my ability to set boundaries in the relationship in general, and I'm starting to worry that my boyfriend and I just don't have the healthiest dynamic. What should I do? Okay, this is a really weird situation because what your boyfriend's doing is just straight up strange. You're telling me he wants you to use the same fork and knife that he's using, basically with you guys switching back and forth? I don't know about you, but I love my significant other, but if they did that to me, I'd be like, ew, that's disgusting. Like, I can understand that happening like once in a blue moon, but the fact that he wants to do that every single time is seriously weird in my opinion. But I also just can't stand the fact that this guy's like, wow, you didn't share with me, what's wrong with you? You're gonna like this and there's nothing you could do about it. It's like, what's going on right now? That is so weird. That doesn't sound like a loving boyfriend. If anything, that sounds like someone who's like super controlling. So no, you're not in the wrong for wanting to have some kind of boundary and for trying to set up some kind of dynamic where he's not obsessed with food all the time. Because what you've described, in my opinion, sounds incredibly weird, and I don't blame you for a second for getting upset. My entitled coworker tried to convince herself that she was now my mom, as she took it upon herself to not only monitor what I eat every single day, but also telling people that she's training me to try and learn how to eat healthier foods. But after trying to explain to her multiple times that my mom just passed away and that the way she's acting is completely unacceptable, I finally snapped, putting her in her place in a way that she truly did not expect. Here's what happened. So when I was in my early 30s, I used to work in this apartment complex for university students. Our front office staff had a ridiculous turnover rate, to the point that for over half my 4 years there, I was the only full-time front staff. Management hired a new full-time person who we will call Emily. Emily was a few years younger than me. She was multilingual, had a degree in hospitality and sales, and had just moved to my state. Now, there are two important things you need to know about me. My mom had recently passed away, and I am overweight. Part of my job involved lots of lifting and carrying heavy packages up the long, steep hill our complex was situated over, so I'm fairly muscular and rather fit under my extra fluff, which I am very proud of. By contrast, my mom never got above 110 pounds in her whole life. She meant well, but almost 30 years of her picking at me about my weight had made it kind of a sore subject. Things went well for a while, and then Emily's obsession with healthy eating started. I mentioned a restaurant, and she pulled up a menu to tell me what to order with a comment about being my mom now, but I shut it down and told her about the loss in my family. She brought meals for me and got offended I didn't want them. She saw my soda and told me not to drink those anymore, and if I had a snack of some kind, she would open a bag of trail mix and cross to my desk with it. I saw what was about to happen in slow motion, so I flung both hands over my snack to shield my food, and she upended the entire bag onto my plate. Now, I didn't like nuts, so I had to throw the whole thing away. I told her several times to stop, and she apologized, but she didn't change the behavior. I even involved management, and they said that she was just being friendly, and this went on for at least 6 months. Then came the final straw. I don't remember what brought it up, but she was talking to a resident, glanced across at me, and chirped out, "I'm teaching her to be healthy. I'm like her mom." And as a fun fact, she was completely misgendering me, which I also talked to her about repeatedly. I'm non-binary and I use they, them pronouns. Well, at this point, I saw red. Usually, I would have waited for the resident to leave and addressed her patiently in private again, but this time I couldn't do it. It was one pick too many, not least of all because she didn't even address the comment to me, but about me to one of our residents. At this point, I snapped. I pushed out my desk and said something to the effect of, "I had a mom and she's dead and you are not her. Stop trying to act like it." Well, after that, the entire climate of the office changed. Emily stopped talking to me and eventually quit, which I still feel bad about, but only a little bit. Management froze me out for making the workplace hostile, and while I did quit not long after that, I will say I'm much happier where I am right now. Oh my gosh, talk about management not doing their job. If I had somebody up on my case constantly monitoring what I eat all the time, I think I would lose my mind on that person, especially if they're gonna try and pretend to be my mom. Like if I had a mom who just passed away, I would go nuts if someone's like, "Oh, I'm your mom now." It's like, no, you're not. Don't you dare try to make that assumption. So good for you for taking a stand and not taking that for a second, because the way she was treating you, in my opinion, was completely unacceptable. My toxic former boss treated me like garbage for the entirety of my employment with him for 10 months, as he made my life a living nightmare by making inappropriate comments, as well as treating me like dirt. So I decided to get some petty revenge by convincing him that one of his idols thought so low of him that he would never have a chance to repair that relationship in his life. And I've honestly never felt better about getting back at someone. Here's what happened. Okay, so my cousin has these friends, and we'll call them Sandra and Greg for the sake of the story. Now, they are a married couple, and they have, over the years, been kind of absorbed into my family. Every holiday and social event that would normally be just family, they always had an invitation. I think my cousin had some sort of family meeting with all the people who consistently host stuff and asked them, but I'm not fully clear on that. Now, cut to me at the age of 16 years old, and I'm looking for my first job. And when I'm at one of these family gatherings, Sandra and Greg tell everyone that they are opening an ice cream shop. Greg has a local tech company and has been involved with local government in our small town, and he also owns properties that he rents out. Well, I jump at this opportunity, telling them that I was looking for a job. A few months later, the place is ready to open, and I have an interview. Now, this should have been my first sign that things would be weird working for them, but that may just be in hindsight because I had nothing to compare it to at the time. The interview was at Greg's other company with a table of 3 interviewers, Greg, Sandra, and their general manager. Now, the questions felt like they were trying to grill me on ice cream facts mostly, and when the interview was said and done, Greg admitted to just messing with me since he knew me. Well, this job was an absolute nightmare. I only worked there for 10 months because I simply couldn't take it anymore. My opinion of those people changed from neutral to straight up hatred and disgust. Greg would often talk to all of the teenage employees about their spicy history, if you know what I mean, tell in-depth stories about his own at our age, and tease the people he knew personally like me who lacked any of these spicy experiences, again, if you know what I mean. I vividly remember him talking to me and another employee about some of the suggestive games you can find in virtual reality and asked if we wanted to try it one day, and that he had a headset that he could lend us. And this is all on top of the workplace mismanagement. I was the only employee on pay stubs, with most of the other employees on direct deposit, and I would often have to remind him to pay me. He would normally say that he just forgot, but it happened almost a dozen times, with my longest wait time being a month and a half. We also had a shirt calendar, where every employee had to wear a certain color work shirt depending on the day of the week, and many employees were written up for not wearing the correct shirt. Sandra and Greg would also let their friends hang out at the counter, throw pennies in our tip jar one after the other, because of course, every time we got a tip, we rung a bell and cheered. They would also bother us, ask personal questions, and a ton of other rude and intrusive stuff. But here is the worst of it all. I came out to my work best friend at the closing shift out back behind the dumpsters, and Greg took the footage from the security cameras and sent it to my cousin, who then sent it to my parents. And it all came to my attention on the day of a huge family wedding, in which both Sandra and Greg attended. This was a common occurrence. Greg got drunk a lot at home by himself and would watch the security cameras and and call into the store to micromanage. I have plenty of stories about this place and I could go on for pages, but onto the petty revenge itself. I quit during the season of firings because a group chat had leaked that was essentially the employees crapping on the owners and manager, which I was on but pretty neutral. And the revenge itself comes in through a connection my mom has with this guy that we will call Evan. Evan is a high-level stockbroker for a major company. He's incredibly wealthy and successful, and he worked with Greg on the Chamber of Commerce in our town briefly. My brothers and his kids have activities together, so we make conversation sometimes. Fast forward to 2 nights ago, and I'm at a family outing to this vineyard for music and drinks when Greg approaches me to ask me how college and work are going now that apparently I'm Mr. Hollywood. And for reference, I work in entertainment as a writer and a creative consultant. I told him coldly that things were good, and he proceeds to ask me some condescending questions about finances, and even went as far as to discourage me from pursuing my career even further, telling me that I should drop out of school. Now, I would normally just take this kind of comment from family, but you know what? He isn't family. So I decided to say, yeah, well, Evan has been helping me out with my finances. And when I said that, his face lit up. Now, for context, my mom told me something a while back about how Greg really idolizes Evan. So I took full advantage of that and furthered the conversation. I said to him, yeah, you've actually come up a few times in our conversations going over old income records. He then said to me, oh, really? Well, what did you tell him? I then gave him a blank stare and I said, I told him whatever you think I told him. Now, this made his smile drop, and I said to him, good luck patching that one up. I hear it's hard to get Evan's respect after you lost it so devastatingly, but I wouldn't know. He actually likes me. And then after that, I just walked away. Now, for more context, I didn't fully lie. Me and Evan had one conversation about Greg where he basically said he always thought he was a sleazy guy. The only thing that I lied about was my changing of Evan's opinion on him, which isn't true. Evan never respected him in the first place. Now, my mom is a little upset that I stirred the pot after 3 years, but I honestly just don't give a crap, because if you pay your employees on time and don't change their punch-in code to something super inappropriate, then maybe better things will happen to you in the future. Wow, Greg and Sandra sound like absolute pieces of crap, and I grouped both of them in even though Greg's like the main assailant, because Sandra was clearly just letting this all happen. But with Greg specifically, his comments were so out of line, from the nasty suggestive comments, as well as all the times he made you feel like crap. Like, that is so uncalled for, it's honestly not even funny. So with all things considered, I think what you did to this guy was so deserved. He literally treated you like garbage and tried to once again get in your head and be like, oh, you should quit your job and quit your career. So the fact that you got back at him by basically convincing him that you had somehow ruined this relationship he super valued, in my opinion, is something that he absolutely deserved. An entitled toxic Karen demands that she gets a free upgrade at Disney after she sees my family move to the front, all because of my kid being in a wheelchair. But as soon as she didn't get her way, this Karen went absolutely ballistic as she spouted off some of the most racist and hateful things I've ever heard in my life, resulting in her getting kicked out of the park. Here's what happened. Okay, so me and my family are at Disney. It's me, my husband, and my 2 kids ages 3 and 7, as well as my nephew who's 13, and at this point we're headed to the parade, and we are all dressed as characters from my daughter's favorite movie, Encanto. Now, my son is in a wheelchair, but we haven't had much of an issue since we've got here. But today we got to the parade a bit late and it was packed. I mean, way more than what we'd ever seen on other days. So we were kind of behind some other people. I was holding my toddler on my shoulders so that she could see, but my son was having a hard time seeing. Now, a kind family in front of us offered to let me push my son in front of them just to see if that helped in any kind of way. I thanked them a lot, and when I did, by some true Disney magic, a cast member came over and asked if we'd like to find a better view at the very front. She then escorted us to the little area and made sure we got to the front. And as a side note, we did not block anyone's view, nor did we take away any spot from anyone. Well, that's when the entitled Karen of this story pops up and she taps the cast member on the shoulder. She says, okay, where is my free upgrade? Now, this poor woman tries to explain to this Karen how we didn't really get an upgrade and that there's plenty of space beside where we are. Well, this entitled Karen was not having it. She said to the cast member, no, they were moved up, so I demand to get moved up too, and a free lightning pass. Now, at this point, her granddaughter was with her, and she looked absolutely mortified. By this time, the parade was starting, so the worker was trying to calm her down. I then told her there was plenty of room for her and the kid, and they could even get right beside us. But she then just screamed at me to shut up and keep going. A few other parade watchers tried to intervene while the worker called for backup, but this is where everything honestly went down in a way I did not expect. This entitled Karen then looks at us and says, you stupid foreigners always taking things from Americans who actually worked for it. I paid for my tickets. And she was screaming on and on and on. By that time, she was being forced to leave while saying, and you're in my country, so you need to speak my language. Nobody understands Spanish. Now, at this point, as she was leaving, people started to check on us. Thankfully, my daughter was preoccupied by the parade, and we were all just completely fine. Now, the craziest part about all of this is that I was never speaking Spanish. I had only been speaking Swahili that day because my nephew doesn't know Spanish. And also, why do these middle-aged entitled Karens always assume any language that isn't English is somehow Spanish? This is at least the 10th time I've had someone mention Spanish when I'm actively speaking Swahili. I mean, these two languages sound nothing alike. But truly, that Karen was super obnoxious, and I'm so glad that she ended up getting kicked out. Oh man, this is so unacceptable. First of all, that Karen was straight up racist. Like, there is no other way of putting this. That is so unacceptable, it's not even funny. Who in their right mind would see a family with a kid in a wheelchair and be like, wow, they're getting an upgrade? That means I demand a free upgrade. If they're going up there, then I'm going as well. And then as soon as she doesn't get her way, she's gonna be like, wow, you need to learn how to speak English. You're always taking things away from Americans. And it's like, lady, you know that this country has more than one language, right? Seriously, the United States is not just an English-speaking country. It is a melting pot of all different kinds of cultures and upbringings. So when someone seriously acts like this in public and makes a massive scene, like, what is this Karen expecting? Did she really think she was gonna get her way by making a fool out of herself? It is so crazy to me and unbelievably cringy that anybody would treat another human being like this in public nonetheless. Like, I would expect this on the internet way before I would ever expect it in public at a Disney park. So yeah, that Karen was completely out of line, and I'm so sorry this happened to you and your family, because you guys did not deserve that in the slightest. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My family has been pressuring me into marriage, as they've tried to weasel their way back into my life so that they can control every aspect of it, just like they did when I lived with them. But right now, I'm honestly so torn, and at this point, I don't know what to do. So I escaped home last year, and it has been the best decision I've ever made. And yes, I really mean it when I say that I escaped. I'm not gonna lie, at the beginning, I doubted everything because I only knew one reality. But as time has passed, I know for certain that I've made the right decisions. After a certain age in my community, you are considered expired basically, and I didn't want to play that game. I have always felt there are so many men, so why should I only have access to the ones in the community specifically? What if I never got married? I spent years waiting for something that seemingly was like never going to happen, and dating is such a scandal here. Also, my family doesn't speak to me unless it is to criticize me or talk bad about me. But personally, I believe it's a them problem. And since I left, I haven't spoken a bad word about any of them. In fact, most of the time, I forget most of them exist. But I have definitely lived how I have wanted, and I'm proud of what I've achieved, even if they aren't and they keep on repeating it. For that, I've been labeled selfish, self-centered, conceited, and so on. Now, I've been dating someone who is not a part of my religion that has been wanting to convert, and someone in his family posted a few pictures and it's all just kind of blown up. So now my parents have reached out to me wanting to propose a few things. They said that if I really wanted to get married to him, and as a side note, we have spoken about it, and he has been wanting to convert, they said that they would marry me religiously so that at least people wouldn't talk bad about me. But if I went ahead, they would be hurt for the rest of their lives, and we wouldn't have the same relationship as before, and to not expect them to engage with him because it would likely never ever happen, and that they have their reasons not to do so. They also said that if I was to marry him, I would have to wait 3 years before getting pregnant, just in case things didn't work out, so I could divorce him amicably. But they said that if I wasn't 100% sure, because they're convinced that he is just not compatible with me, they say that marriage is not what they sold me and that it requires a lot of work, and I'm not ready to be a housewife just yet, if ever. They said that they wanted to do things right, and for me to meet a nice boy, live in their place, and get integrated into the family and family business again. They wouldn't prohibit me going out again like before and all this other garbage, but it seriously sounds like BS and just manipulation to me. And what should be excited about me getting married, they have just completely dulled it down. And at this point, I don't even want to be or get married to anyone. It always seemed like a nightmare, and these are the moments that I remember why. I am not giving up my freedom, and I'm not going to do things their way, just to go back to the hole that I worked so hard to crawl out of. It just seems that every time I engage with anyone here, I am made to feel like the villain of the story. Now, I thought I would miss my family, but I saw them a few days ago and I felt nothing. It feels like everything is just the same for them, but it definitely is not for me. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Yeah, it seems like your family wants you back so they can try and control your life again. And that is really not fair for you, because I completely agree with you. If you don't want to marry someone specifically in your community, and it sounds like this is some kind of religious tradition, then in my opinion, I think you should be free to do whatever you want. Because from the sounds of it, these people would probably be unhappy with anything you do. They were super controlling when you live with them, and now that you're away from them, they're like, wait a second, don't do that, we have no control over that. So honestly, I hope you're able to find some kind of distance from these people, because the way they've treated you, in my opinion, is completely unfair. My partner is demanding that I move back with him to his home country, and despite the fact that I'm 8 months pregnant, and that I told him from day one that I would not want to do that, he is still expecting me to move away from my family, as well as a place that I've lived at for over 20 years. Because if I choose to stay back, he says that he will leave me and the baby, as he feels that I wouldn't be the one that he would want to marry. So at this point, I'm honestly so distressed, and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I'm an English 33-year-old female, but I have lived in Spain for 20 years, and my 42-year-old partner has lived here for about 10. He is Turkish, and he speaks English fluently, as he lived in England for many years before I knew him. We met here in Spain, and from the start of our relationship, we discussed a number of things, such as the future to suss out our compatibility, and we both pretty much agreed on everything. One specific question he asked me was, would I ever one day want to move to Turkey, his home country? Now, my answer was no, based on a number of reasons. For starters, my mom and dad live here, and I have over 20 years worth of friendships here. I don't speak a word of Turkish, so I feel like I'd be totally dependent on him to get by. I also wouldn't know a soul there. And even though I'd meet his family, not one of them speaks any English. Well, when I told him this, he understood and he didn't get offended or upset by it. We had had multiple different conversations about the future, some of which were about if we would ever get a house together here in Spain. Well, fast forward, and we've been together for just over 4 years now, and I'm now 8 months pregnant with our first child. Tonight, he struck up the conversation again about moving to Turkey in the future, and I said to him, I thought we already spoke about this, and that I'm happy here, and I don't really want to move to Turkey. It was at this moment that he then called me selfish, and said that I'm not thinking about him or our unborn daughter, and how moving there would benefit all of us. I was more than just a tad shocked, and honestly quite pissed off. So I reminded him that I wouldn't benefit from giving up my whole life to start fresh in a country that I couldn't speak the language of, not to mention losing everyone that I've ever known. After an hour of him defending his wish to move there, and me defending my reasons why I didn't want to, he eventually said, well, I'll go there without you then. And if you can't follow your man, then you're obviously not the one. Mind you, I'm 8 months pregnant with his baby. I've asked him how he can be so selfish and manipulative like this, and how can he throw me and our baby down the drain like this? His response was to say, I'm not saying I want to move there tomorrow. I'd like to know though if I wanted to move there in the future. My woman would have to have my back and follow my leadership. I reminded him that I expressed my feelings on moving countries since day one, and explained to him that his desire to move to his home country would have been fine if he had been more clear from the beginning about his future plans if we realized sooner that we weren't compatible, because maybe then we wouldn't have tried for this baby. But it seems he tried to trap me and manipulate me to doing what he wants, because if I don't, he will abandon me and our child. So seriously, what's the general opinion on this? I feel like his response and the way he's treating me and my decision just further justifies my not wanting to move countries and have to be totally dependent on him. What should I do? Okay, honestly, I think you hit the nail on the head. This guy's trying to trap you in Turkey and be like, oh yeah, now you're gonna have to depend on me. You're miles away from your family and you've got nobody else. And it's like, first of all, I don't like the way he's talking about you. He's trying to be like, well, my woman has to follow my leadership. And it's like, wait a second, I think you meant to say wife. Calling the original poster your woman sounds super disrespectful. Like, what is going on right now? This lady is not your property, she's your partner in life. And the way he's talking really does seem like he tried to trap you in having a baby and then tried to force you to move back to his country. Like, imagine that, spending 4 years to get to know someone, you both agree to start having a family, and then he's like, well, if you don't follow me, then obviously you're not the one. And it's like, wait a second, I thought we already went over this. So yes, I think your instincts are spot on. It really seems like your partner is trying to trap you in Turkey, and in my opinion, if I was in your shoes, I would be super hesitant in moving forward with any of those plans. This next story came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own story. Am I the jerk for being hospitalized during my sister's first day of senior year? Because right now, my dad is saying I stole her thunder by having a flare-up that resulted in me going to the hospital. And now, after seeing my sister refusing to talk to me, as well as yelling at me any chance that she gets, I'm honestly so confused and I now don't know what to do. I'm a 21-year-old female and I am chronically ill. For the majority of my life, I would need to be hospitalized due to various health complications. This would then leave my 18-year-old sister all alone. Before I developed my chronic illness, I would be the one to raise my sister since our mother was very neglectful. By the time our dad took us in for custody, I had began to develop symptoms and eventually diagnosed with my illness, which has left me disabled. Well, one day around August, my dad had told me how much my sister was looking forward to her first day of school since she will become a senior. Now, I was excited for her, and I would listen to her talk about all the things that she was excited for. My dad had told me during this time to try and control my flare-ups so that I don't steal her thunder. Now, this is a very common thing that I'm told, as my past flare-ups have caused scheduling issues. I had already experienced mild flare-ups for a couple of days leading up to this, and on the night of my sister's first day, I woke up at 4 o'clock in the morning with excruciating pain. The pain I had was much worse than my past flare-ups, and I was eventually taken to the hospital as my medicine just didn't help at all. I was in the hospital from 5 o'clock in the morning until around noon, passing out from the pain multiple times. And I was surprised that my dad stayed by my side during this, as I figured that he wouldn't, since I had told him to take my sister to school and tell her that I said good luck before passing out. When I did finally maintain consciousness and stop screaming from the pain, my dad began to scold me while I was still in the hospital bed. I then teared up as I felt guilty about this and told him to go see my sister. Eventually, I was discharged and I was prescribed new medications because of how bad it was. When I got home, my sister was there and she began yelling at me for ruining her first day. I tried apologizing, but she ended up slamming the door to her room and refuses to talk to me. And to this day, she still refuses to talk to me and will yell and scream about me and how I always take the attention away. I'm honestly confused because my dad tells me she has every right to be angry with me and that this is my fault. However, my friends tell me it's not because I insisted that my dad take my sister to school and that I can't control it. So seriously, am I the jerk here? Because right now I'm honestly so confused. Okay, your dad is super weird. The fact that he's trying to blame you for having a flare-up and needing to go to the hospital all because of a flare-up, that in my opinion is crazy. There's no good excuse for that. You're not trying to steal anybody's thunder. You're literally trying to live a normal life. The fact that he would try to act like that is honestly so weird to me. So no, of course you're not the jerk. It sounds like you can't really control any of the flare-ups and any of the pain you're going through, and the fact that he would imply that you're somehow like making this happen just to ruin your little sister's big day of senior year, in my opinion, is unbelievably toxic. My entitled neighbor is constantly parking his construction truck right outside my house, as he is literally disturbing his entire neighborhood while also being very dismissive of anybody's complaints. And at this point, I'm seriously frustrated and I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I live in a quiet street in New York. There's no sidewalks, but there are a lot of trees. Neighbors are nice enough, but with the house set back into the trees, most neighbors just wave hello with not much interaction. Now, just about the only neighbor we talk to is an older lady who owns the house directly across the street from us. She used to be good friends with the previous owners of our house, and when we moved in, a nice atmosphere between us was set up. The lady lives in the house with one of her 2 children. She also usually has a tenant. The lady doesn't have much to offer, so the tenant is often a bit shady. Well, you gotta do what you gotta do to get by in life, and she keeps them in line, so we have no complaints. Her last tenant was sent away because they couldn't afford to rent anymore, and around the same time, the older lady started to take her winters with a family member in Florida. Since then, the lady's son moved into the house, taking the tenant's spot, and I had not talked to him much except the time that the lady introduced us. Now, the guy is kind of a jerk, but not too bad. His whole spiel is to name drop all the people who used to live in the area. It's kind of like making it clear that this is his neighborhood. Now, most of those people are gone, and as I said earlier, most people keep to themselves around here anyways. Well, the problem is that since moving in, the guy has been parking his construction truck and sometimes a trailer on the road. Now, to be clear, I'm talking about the type of truck and trailer that moves excavators, bulldozers, and a large amount of dirt around, not some kind of landscaper's pickup. He doesn't park every day, maybe like 4 nights a month, but the truck takes up a complete lane of the road, and because the trees are low light, you sometimes can't see it at night until you're on top of it. He has been doing this for months now, and about 2 weeks ago, he must have forgotten to take the trailer's brake off when he left early in the morning. He shook most of the houses as he pulled away and left tire marks on the street for almost 2 blocks. Well, some of us neighbors got to talking one-on-one as part of our normal waves hello, and my wife volunteered me to talk to the guy. Well, I really just didn't want to, so I just dismissed it. Well, 2 days ago, I come home from work to find the truck parked right outside my driveway. Only this time, he has cones out boxing the truck, and the spot he parked at made it difficult for me to pull into my driveway, but this was more than enough to give me the push to go talk to him. So I ring his doorbell, he comes out, and I reintroduce myself. I tell him my name, and then I say I live across the street. I then ask him that I'm wondering what's up with the truck. He asks which house I live in by asking, "Oh, you live in the Smith's old house, right?" Even though he got that wrong. The Smiths lived in the house next door. Then he tells me the truck broke down and that's why it's there. And yes, you heard that right. His truck broke down right in front of my house. He then asked me if I called the town on him because he recently received a ticket for parking the truck overnight. I told him that I didn't call, but after the last time he pulled away, I'm not surprised that someone did. So again, I asked him what his deal was for parking the truck on the street and that it's wrong for him to do so, that he's been doing it for a while and no one has said anything until now, and that he should find a different solution for his parking dilemma. Well, after I said that, he just brushed me off and said, "Okay, you said your piece," and then he closed the door in my face. So seriously, what should I do next? Should I call the town the next time the truck is parked? Because honestly, right now, I seriously don't know what to do. Oh man, if someone was that dismissive towards me after I tried to be reasonable and be like, "Hey, you might want to find some other place to park," I would very quickly give that guy the cold shoulder, call it in and report him, and then never look back, because that guy's got a weird attitude. He clearly thinks that he owns this neighborhood for some stupid reason and that he can park his stupid truck wherever he wants. And it's like, dude, you can't do that, especially not right in front of my house. Like, I can understand someone parking a car there, but from the sounds of it, this is something that is not residential. This is not some like minivan or an SUV where it might be big, but it's not bothering anybody, because it sounds like this is something that's massive that takes up a lot of space, and it's something that literally should not be in a neighborhood. So hopefully this guy cleans up his act, because the way he's acting is honestly super obnoxious. My entitled manager decides to micromanage every aspect of our office supplies, by even going as far as putting a lock on our supply closet door, forcing us to contact her directly if we needed anything. So me and my coworkers decided to band together and maliciously comply, as we literally overwhelmed her in a way that she honestly didn't expect. Here's what happened. So I used to work at a mid-sized company where our department had its own supply closet. Everyone knew the rules. Take what you need and don't hoard it, and try to keep the area tidy. Now this might sound simple enough, right? Well, apparently that wasn't the case for the new micromanaging office manager, who we will call Karen. Karen was obsessed with cutting costs. She would swoop in like a hawk every morning inspecting the supply closet. If a box of pens was a little lighter or the post-it notes weren't perfectly aligned, we would get a stern email about unnecessary consumption. She even implemented a sign-out sheet for supplies, meaning that if you wanted a highlighter, then you better justify it in writing. Well, one day Karen decided to escalate. She put a lock on the supply closet and declared herself the sole key holder. If anyone needed something, they had to email her and wait for her to approve the request. And this was, of course, on top of her other duties, so getting a new pen would take hours. Now, needless to say, productivity started to suffer, but it's about right here that our malicious compliance came into play. A coworker of mine, who we will call Tom, was a bit of a prankster, but always stayed within the rules. He decided to test Karen's new system to its limits. Every time he needed anything, no matter how small it might be, he emailed this Karen. Did he need a single paper clip, or to replace a dried out marker, or even if the stapler got jammed? Well, then he sent an email every single time. And because of this, Tom's meticulousness inspired the rest of us. Soon the entire department was flooding Karen's inbox with individual requests. Since Karen insisted on handling every single one personally, she quickly became overwhelmed. Approving requests started taking days instead of hours. Meetings were delayed because people didn't have notebooks. Presentations stalled because someone was waiting for a dry erase marker. Management started noticing the bottleneck, mostly because our department's performance metrics were plummeting, and everyone pointed the finger at the supply chain fiasco. Now, Karen tried to defend her system, claiming that we were being wasteful and needed structure, but the evidence was clear. Her micromanagement was backfiring. Now, after a specifically disastrous week, upper management finally stepped in. They not only revoked Karen's authority over the supply closet, but they also gave her a formal reprimand. The lock was then removed and the sign-out sheet disappeared, and we went back to the honor system. Now, after that, this Karen was humiliated and tried to keep a low profile after that. Now, as for all of us, we may have lost a week of productivity, but the petty satisfaction of watching Karen drown in her own bureaucracy was honestly worth every single second. Yes, I love it when micromanaging jerks get exactly what they deserve, because the Karen in this story really thought it was necessary to put a lock on the supply closet door. Think about that for a second. That is so crazy. Like, unless someone's straight up stealing all of the office supplies in some kind of way, then this Karen's reaction was just completely over the top. So seriously, good for you and your coworkers for putting her in her place, because her behavior sounded incredibly obnoxious. An entitled jerk of a real estate agent tricks me into buying a property that absolutely was not what he described. So I decided to get some revenge by exposing the fact that he was cheating on his wife in a way that I honestly never expected. Here's what happened. Now, I want to start off by saying that I am by no means an expert or professional at revenge, but I am a patient person. 7 years ago, I was lucky enough to be able to buy my own place. I had saved for 10 years, worked my butt off, and I was so happy to be able to have a place to call my own. Now, being a single person on the mortgage meant that I had to make make compromises. And one such compromise was buying a property on a shared block, which by the way is a lot cheaper. Where I'm from, this usually means it's on a strata title. For some, that's a bonus as it means there's a communal fund for repairs, typically with insurance being cheaper as a collective, with other things like maintenance being taken care of. Strata titles also come with a lot of bylaws and restrictions on what you can and can't do. Now, I am a pretty private and introverted person, so having to deal with people and have limits on how I can live is honestly a big no-no for me. But nonetheless, I took my time and I found the perfect property. It was a shared block but a freehold title. The only thing was that I needed to pay public liability insurance for the shared walkway on the property, and this was split equally between the owners. The real estate agent is local to my area, and there's also about 3 degrees of separation between us. He has friends who are friends with my friends type of thing. I didn't know him, but I knew of him, so that sort of felt good. About 5 months after I moved in, I get a knock on the door from the landlord of the property next to me to discuss the insurance. And for me, this is not a problem. I asked for a copy of the policy so I can have some kind of record. Well, it gets sent through, and lo and behold, it's for a strata insurance. I was incredibly confused, and after much back and forth, the property isn't a freehold title but a strata title. I called my lawyer who conveyed the title, etc., and he was seriously dumbfounded. But over it all, he did the right thing and made things as right as they could be. I arranged for a meeting with a real estate agent, and I even brought emails and printouts of the ads that they had, with all of them saying that it was a freehold title, as well as emails between my real estate agent and my lawyer specifically discussing its freehold status. Despite it being an absolute black and white, he refused to accept any fault or offer anything to make things right. But with all things considered, I don't begrudge that. He is looking out for himself, and I honestly get that. However, I would never forget about this. I did enter into mediation with the real estate agent, and all I asked for was when the time came for me to sell, they would do it or cover the cost. I thought that was reasonable, but they flat out refused and offered me $1,000 to go away, which I also refused. I had the options to pursue them legally, and I was advised to do so by the mediator, but ultimately I decided against it for a few reasons, with one of the main reasons being my health at the time. So I planned and plotted about how I would get back at this absolute jerk of a person, and it was then that I settled on this. I found that his personal Facebook page wasn't set to private. I saw some photos of boys on tour trip that he went on a few weeks prior, which was about 5 to 6 months after I bought the property. I also found his address through a business registration search, so on the anniversary of the sale, for 6 straight years, I sent him flowers with the following note: "Dear real estate agent, remembering you on this special day. She has your eyes. Love, Ellie." They varied ever so slightly over the years, but always had "on this special day" and some weird inference of a love child and a desire to reconnect. I also from time to time arranged for postcards and letters to be sent from another country, and it was the country that he was on tour in, always signed with "Love, Ellie" at the end of it. Well, fast forward, and I learned about 3 weeks ago that this guy recently divorced. He lost his home and is no longer working as a real estate agent. And the reason for all of this is that his wife had somehow found out that he cheated on her. The story I was told through a friend of a friend basically described how he would get weird gifts and flowers every year, all on the same exact day. His wife apparently finally put 2 and 2 together and realized what the date was, and he admitted to cheating on her. Now, I didn't mean for this, but it turns out a year before I bought my house, he had gone on holiday and came back with a nasty virus you can only get from having just a little bit too much fun, if you know what I mean. And apparently he gave this to his wife, but somehow convinced her that it wasn't him. So, as such, our special day turned out to be right around the time he was deep in some trouble with someone who wasn't his wife 1 year earlier. So at this point, he's apparently lost his house, he's lost half of his retirement savings, and also his business. I do feel a little bit guilty about all of it sometimes, but then I'm reminded that he's a scumbag, and that karma, just like me, is a patient, spiteful, and vengeful jerk. Oh man, I love this story because this is not at all what you expected. You didn't plan on this happening. Like, this really is like one of those situations where you're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna mess with this guy, but then you come to find out, wait, he really did cheat. Like, this is crazy. This honestly is so awful. I feel so bad for this guy's wife, but also this guy absolutely had this coming. He was treating you like garbage, and he tricked you into buying a property that, guess what, wasn't exactly the way that he described it. Like, that is false advertising to the highest degree. So good for you for getting some awesome revenge, because this guy absolutely deserved to get taken down. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for refusing to give up my seat on the plane just so a father could sit next to his son? Because after they tried to guilt trip me, I doubled down, saying that I'm taking my seat and that this man had better behave himself. Here's what happened. happened. Okay, to start things out, I'm a 29-year-old male, and I boarded my short flight, which is about 70 minutes long, which was a 2-to-2 seating arrangement. I'd booked myself a window seat, and when I got there, I saw maybe a 7-year-old boy sitting in my spot next to his father in the aisle seat. The opposite row also had his mother and his sister sitting there. Now, although this happened less than 24 hours ago, I was so exhausted that I don't remember the conversation word for word. I pointed towards my seat, and the father asked me if I would mind swapping so they could all sit together, and that their seat is in the row behind it. But I said I would only swap it if it was a window seat. Well, when he said it was an aisle seat, I straight up said I wouldn't swap it. Now, to give context as to why I wanted the window seat, I like to look out, but mainly if I need a nap, that is unlikely to happen if I can't rest my head against the window. Other than that, I hate aisle seats a lot, and I hate them almost equally, if not more so than middle seats. People in the drinks trolley keep bumping into you, and I just can't understand why anyone would choose to sit there, because it really takes the trolley bumping into you once to change your mind. This guy then looked at me and said, "So do you want to sit next to your son?" I responded by saying, "I don't care, I just want the window seat." At this point, this guy stood up and got his son up out of my seat. He then said to me, "You are not a very nice person." I just responded by saying, "It's none of your business and please be polite." He tried to make some stupid rebuttal, but all I could say to him was, "Just be quiet and behave yourself." Now, I just stood there looking at him serious, and I think he was trying to shame me initially, but he didn't respond with anything else after that. His wife was also watching this the entire time. Now, when somebody in the row behind saw it all happen, he offered to swap and sat next to me, so they did eventually sit next to each other in the end. Now, for all I care, they could have been sat 20 rows apart, or even booked a new flight. I had zero investment in this or their reasons. They can ask and I can say no, and that honestly should be the end of it. And I don't like that they basically tried to force me into swapping with me. If they care that much, then they can book their seats in advance like everybody else, because that absolutely was within their capabilities. Oh man, I can't stand when people do this. And thankfully, I have not run into that myself, but I do have friends who have had this situation, and honestly, it is so awkward. Like, here you are just trying to get in your plane seat, and these people are trying to like guilt trip you into giving up your seat. And it's like, wait a second, just because you can't book seats together doesn't mean this is somehow my problem. So yeah, I don't blame you for not giving up your spot. This guy was clearly trying to guilt trip you, and that, in my opinion, is completely unacceptable. My idiotic company forces me to wait all the way until like a week before my trip so that I can reserve a hotel for a business trip, resulting in me not only having to buy a hotel room for like twice the amount, but also the entire accounting team getting in trouble for forcing me to do this. Here's what happened. I work remotely for a small company of about 100 employees, and based on my contract, I have to return to the office for a week 4 times a year, and the last time I went back was in November. In the contract, it's laid out that my employer pays 100% of the hotel as well as any gas or airfare. Normally, this is an extremely uneventful routine. It's a mid-sized Midwestern city with not much to do, so it is what it is. A few months before I went back up, we had our financial audit, and one thing that was pointed out to our accounting department was a lack of controls on purchasing. The way it used to be was every manager and supervisor had a company credit card with $1,500 as the balance, and as long as we stayed under that limit, we didn't have to do any kind of purchase orders. After our audit, my accounting team decided to make purchase orders 100% their focus. Going forward, it doesn't matter what it was, what the situation was, or if you didn't have an approved purchase order, you could not make the transaction. Now, all of this happened in early October, right as I'm trying to book my hotel for my on-site week in November. Normally, I have freedom in choosing when I go on-site, but I was requested to go that specific week by my CEO and CFO as we were launching some strategic planning and they wanted me on-site. So I put the purchase order in for the hotel and I don't hear back anything. I then forgot about it for a couple of weeks and then remembered mid-October that I still don't have a hotel room booked. When I initially made the request, it was about $550 for 4 nights, but looking again in mid-October, it's now up to $700 for 4 nights. I then look around and notice that same week as I'm supposed to go up, there's a concert in the same city, followed by a big college sporting event in that town. So I send an email to the accounting people that I need to book a hotel. The rates are going up and room availability is going down. Well, after I did that, I get a strongly worded email back saying that everyone has different priorities and my purchase order will be addressed once all the other ones have done it before me. So at this point, I sit back and wait and keep checking every other day and keep seeing the prices go up and up. I also send a weekly email asking if it's approved yet, and I still keep getting absolute silence back. Then finally, a week before, I email my accounting team with the CFO included, saying if I don't book a room that day, there wouldn't be any left, and I would not be able to make it up for the strategic planning work. About 30 minutes later, I get back an email that says word for word, "You are authorized to reserve a hotel room for 4 nights." So I think to myself, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and book it. And you know that room that was $550? Well, it's now $1,200. So I book it and I move on with my life, and I don't think anything of it. Well, last week I got around to uploading my credit card receipts and submitted my expense report, which included the $1,200 hotel stay. I then got a call from the CFO today just exploding on me, furious about where in the world I did stay that cost so much money and what I was thinking. Well, I very calmly just forwarded the original purchase order as well as all of the emails that I sent saying that the prices were raising. At this point, I had dead silence on the phone as he read through the email chains and just said, "Oh, are you kidding me?" And then he hung up. Well, at the end of the day, all supervisors got an email stating that the purchase order system was being shut down until they could figure out a better way to manage it. Because honestly, the way they were doing it was a complete nightmare. Yeah, this really was so stupid. Like, this honestly could have been fixed so quickly. You mean to tell me that these people would rather you wait until the prices doubled instead of just taking the room and being like, "Okay, I've got the room and everything's taken care of"? Like, seriously, these people are complete morons. It literally took you tagging the CFO just to get them to make any kind of move. So yeah, good for you for maliciously complying and essentially putting them in their place by showing how stupid they were, because this policy, in my opinion, is completely unacceptable. Am I the jerk for ruining my family's New Year's Eve by refusing to join the fun, all because I didn't want to be the designated driver ever again? Because after doing this for literally 7 years and then refusing to do it this year, my family is saying that I betrayed them, and now I feel like a jerk and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 26-year-old female and I really need some serious perspective. I'm starting to think I might be the jerk, but I still feel like I'm in the right. Every New Year's Eve, my family has a big party at my aunt and uncle's house, and every single year without fail, I end up being the designated driver. Don't get me wrong, I love my family, but it's starting to really bug me. It's been like this since I was 19 years old, even before I could legally be allowed to drink. Now, I don't drink that much, maybe a glass of wine or a beer, but I definitely don't get plastered. I'm fine with driving people home if they need it, but for the past few years, everyone just expects me to not drink so I can drive them back. Every year is always the same. "Oh, you can drive, you're not drinking anyways." And I always just say yes because I don't want to let anybody down. Well, fast forward to this year on New Year's Eve, and I told my family ahead of time that I wasn't going to be the designated driver anymore. I just wanted to enjoy the night, have a couple of drinks, and not be responsible for getting everyone home. I even told my cousin, who usually gets really sloshed, that I wasn't driving this year, and she was completely fine with it. When I got to the party, it was the usual chaos. People were drinking, laughing, and having a good time, and I was enjoying myself, but at around 11 o'clock, my cousin came over and asked if I was ready to drive everybody home. Well, I then reminded her that I'm not driving tonight, and I'm actually just here to enjoy the party. She looked at me like I was crazy. She said to me, "Oh, come on, you always drive, don't be a jerk." And it's like, what are you talking about? I tried to calmly explain to her that I wasn't being a jerk. It's just that I wasn't going to be the chauffeur anymore. Then my aunt overheard it and pulled me aside. She lectured me saying, "We all agreed last year that you would be driving. You know how much we rely on you. Everyone else is too tipsy and Ubering is unsafe. Just drive this one time for the family." I felt a ton of pressure, but I refused. I told her I'm not their chauffeur, and I wasn't going to do it again just because no one else could figure out their own ride. My aunt then got upset, saying I was being selfish and that we were family. She said I'm the only one who doesn't get too drunk, so it makes sense for me to help out. I told her I had already had 3 beers, so I wasn't even legally supposed to drive myself. And that's when I finally snapped. I told them it's not my job to be their designated driver every year just because I'm the only one who doesn't get blackout drunk. They needed to figure out their own rides this time. Then I got up and I left. I felt bad walking out, but I didn't want to be a doormat anymore. I then spent the rest of New Year's Eve at home, watching Netflix and eating leftover pasta with my boyfriend. My family texted me and called me dramatic, selfish, and saying I ruined the night. They said I was being super sensitive and that everyone was disappointed in me. And right now, everybody's demanding an apology out of me. And by the way, I got home perfectly safe by Uber. So seriously, am I the jerk in this situation? Because right now, I'm still incredibly frustrated. No, you're not the jerk. These people suck. You told them ahead of time you're not doing this anymore. You literally just wanted to enjoy the party and not feel like you're responsible for everybody else. And I can completely understand where you're coming from. Like the first few times, I'm sure you're probably thinking like, okay, this is fine, I can help out, but it's not a big deal. But now, after all these years of doing this, literally 7 years later, these people are still trying to be like, oh, you'll drive us home, right? Do this for the family. This is what family does. It's like, no, I don't think so. The second you told them that you're not doing that this year should have been the moment that they found someone else to take care of them. And that person, by the way, does not include you. So no, you're not the jerk at all. These people are being super selfish, and they're trying to blame you for something that they clearly didn't plan for. Am I the jerk for refusing to sign my neighbor's waiver, which would essentially let him run tractors through my backyard so that he can build his new pool? Because based on what they've given me, it honestly seems very sketchy, and after he freaked out when I said no, I honestly don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so last Thursday, my neighbors approached my wife regarding a use of yard waiver since they don't have the clearance to move excavators and bobcats to their backyard to build a pool. The waiver states that they need 10 feet of clearance, and 4 of that would be into our yard based on my measurements, and they say they would repair the grass to its original state. Now, I have an irrigation system and internet lines which run beneath the area which would be used, and the neighbors were leaving for Florida and asked for a 48-hour turnaround. I spoke to the pool company on Friday, and they said they need 10 to 12 feet, and they need the waiver because there is a good chance the ground will be totally torn up. Now, it was my wife's birthday this weekend, so this situation was not on the top of my mind, but my neighbor knocks on the door Saturday afternoon asking for some kind of response. Well, I kindly explained that I'm not comfortable signing the current waiver, especially given the typos, the lack of notarization, and the ambiguities regarding repairs. He then takes this personally and storms out of the house, complaining about how much money he's going to lose. Well, today the project manager from the pool company knocks on our door asking what they can do to resolve this. I told him I don't really want my yard torn up, but at a minimum a new waiver needs drafted, and then I would possibly consider it. He then says we have an electrical easement which runs 1.5 feet into our yard in the exact same spot that he wants to use, and he would just call for access. Well, I checked the design and the deed to see that there is not an easement running through the area that they need, and after that this guy leaves, and this situation is literally still up in the air. So am I the jerk for refusing to sign my neighbor's use of yard waiver? Because right now I'm not sure what to do. Wow, this sounds incredibly sketchy and incredibly rushed. Why on earth would anybody in their right mind try to go to their neighbors and be like, oh wow, you should sign this without like looking it over. We need this signed quickly, so why don't you hop to it? It's like, what are you talking about? This is not enough time to make that kind of decision. And it sounds like these people are going to destroy your yard. They're not going to just like dig it up. They're going to make massive holes and completely ruin everything that you have, especially if you have lines underneath your ground. Like, who knows what kind of damage that's going to do. So no, based on the typos and the way you're getting treated, in my opinion, there's no way I would ever sign that. They better figure out another solution, because what they're presenting to you, in my opinion, sounds incredibly sketchy. An entitled jerk tries to insult my appearance in French by heavily implying that I'm ugly to his children. But what he doesn't know is that I know French as well. So I decided to get some revenge by exposing the fact that I knew exactly what he was saying. And I've honestly never felt better about getting back at somebody in my life. Here's what happened. I'm a 28-year-old female, and I live in a 50-floor high-rise building in downtown Vancouver. And to start things out, I just got back from a sweet sunset run. A family entered the building with me and held the door for me. They were speaking French together, but I thanked them in English, which is the main language in British Columbia. We all walked towards the elevator, and I ended up in the same one as them. Now, this was a couple and their 3 kids, all boys around 8 to 10 years old. Now, I am bad with ages, but they were the age of being able to speak and think enough to understand what is right and wrong. They were chatting in French, and since that is my mother tongue, I could understand everything they were saying. As we were getting up more than 30 floors, the dad turned to his kids and asked them in French, "So, is she pretty or not pretty?" When he said this, my brain instantly froze, thinking, oh my gosh, could he be talking about me? Well, one of the kids quickly responded by saying, she's not pretty. I stopped breathing for a second, realizing now fully that it was truly me they were blatantly judging right in front of me. I then, sadly enough, froze. That's mostly how I react when situations are just unbelievable. With just a few floors left before I could escape the awkwardness, I had a choice to make. I could let it go or seize this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for perfect linguistic revenge. I'm not the confrontational type, but I couldn't let this slide. But I kept my cool though, and as I exited the elevator, I turned back and said with the most sassy French accent I could give, "Have a good evening." The look on their faces was absolutely priceless. I left quickly, but in hindsight, I wish I had made direct eye contact until the doors closed. I've dealt with rude comments before, but this moment was a chef's kiss. I've always dreamed of a situation like this, where I could use another language to surprise someone who thought I couldn't understand them. But I'm just saying, keep your language skills to yourself, as you never know when it could come in handy. Learning multiple languages is 100% worth it, if just for bamboozling people like that. The mom stood there silently the entire time, almost like she wasn't really present, and I couldn't help but wonder if she faces this kind of behavior from him as well. There are a few Airbnbs in my building, so I'm guessing they were some kind of tourist, because I never saw them ever again again, even though I would have loved to have a second chance at revenge. Wow, the guts on that guy to be like, hey kids, tell me if this lady's ugly or not, right in front of someone in a country where French is their second language. Like seriously, this guy's an idiot. First of all, why would he do that and try to set up some kind of precedent with his kids to be like, oh yeah, we judge women in public? It's like, you do have a wife, you know, right? She's literally standing in the corner, probably wishing she wasn't there. And based on that reaction alone, I'm willing to bet she deals with this all the time from this guy. Like he's probably some absolute monster behind closed doors. But I really think the way you handled this was perfect. I love the fact that you didn't take that sitting down and you did not allow this guy to make some awful comment at your expense. So good for you for putting this guy in his place because he absolutely deserved it. My toxic, crazy coworker demands that I listen to everything she has to say, all because she has a college degree and I don't. But after dealing with her for so long and listening to all of her awful comments, I finally put my foot down and not only embarrassed her in front of the entire office, but also put her in her place in a way that she truly never expected, resulting in her quitting her job purely out of embarrassment. Here's what happened. Okay, so this happened many years ago when I was a secretary for an up-and-coming attorney. It was a small office, just the attorney, me, and the office manager. Now, I never finished college, and the office manager never tired of holding her degree in business over my head. This person, who we will call Nancy, that's not her real name, managed to work her college degree into almost every conversation. Also, anytime I questioned one of her office policies, such as not having a drink at my desk, or not wearing slacks, or not playing a radio in the office for background music, Nancy would explain to me in the most condescending fashion that according to her education, such things were unprofessional and counterproductive. One of Nancy's weirdest policies went right against the stated orders of the attorney we both work for. As a law office, we sent out a lot of correspondence, legal papers, claims, letters, bills. It would all be mailed out because their office was fairly remote and we weren't close enough to downtown to have a runner take in the documents for the court. We had a postal machine to print out the exact postage on each piece of mail, and it was graded by weight according on how much each envelope weighed on the postal scale. We used both number 10 envelopes and manila envelopes to mail things out. Now, anything under a certain scale, if it would fit inside a number 10 envelope, would only cost the equivalent of one stamp. If it was more than 3 or 4 pages, we would mail it flat in the manila envelope, which because of its thickness and size, would automatically require the postage equivalent of 2 stamps. In order to save money because of the volume of mail that we sent out, the attorney specified that if it would fit inside a number 10 envelope and only weighed enough to cost 1 stamp, then just go ahead and fold up the document and send it in the envelope. And sure, maybe it sounds so foolish to be so strict about something as small as the cost of a stamp, but trust me, on a weekly basis, all those stamps added up. So if a document was only 4 pages or less, I would fold it up and put it in a number 10 envelope. And this is where I butted heads with our dear Nancy. The first time she caught me folding up a 3-page document to put in a regular envelope, she lost her ever-living mind. She screamed at me and said, "Don't you dare send that out in a regular envelope. It's more than 1 page and you need to send it flat." So I said to her, "But Nancy," Henry, who is the attorney's name for the sake of the story, was very specific about his instructions. She then fired back and said, "Are you arguing with me? Need I remind you that he made me the office manager and he told me to run this office in the most efficient manner possible. I'm the one in charge and I'm the one with a college degree. So you do as I say." I tried to say something back, but she just interrupted me. "I don't want to hear anything about it. If it's more than 1 page, then you send it flat." Now, I would have thought this was one of her professional business things that she'd learned in her classes, but what she said next not only blew that out of the water, but also convinced me that I was dealing with someone who was a complete idiot, college degree or not. She said to me, "If you fold up a piece of paper, it weighs more. The more paper you fold, the more it weighs. And that's a waste of postage. Henry wants us to save every penny we can, and you're wasting his money." Now, after I scooped up my jaw off the floor and fitted it back into place, I tried to explain to Nancy that paper does not in fact weigh more simply because it was folded up, but she wasn't having it. She started yelling at me that I was stupid, all because I didn't think about the fact that if you fold something up, it gets heavier. She reminded me again that she was the college graduate and not me, and I should know better than to question her authority and her intelligence. She reiterated that if you fold up paper, it not only weighs more, but I was also wasting postage by doing so. And at this point, I even offered to take 4 sheets of paper and fold them up and place them on the scale, and then place another 4 sheets of paper on the scale so she could see that they weighed the same. And when I said this, I thought she was going to slap me. She advanced on me and snatched the envelope out of my hand and ordered me in a screeching voice to reprint the document and mail it out flat because if you fold it up, it weighs more. Now, about that time, Henry's office door opened and the attorney himself appeared in the doorway, laughing so hard he couldn't even talk at first. first. He said to us, "Ladies, that's enough. I don't like getting involved in office politics, but this time I had to step in. Nancy, I know how proud you are of your bachelor's degree, but obviously they forgot to teach you anything about the laws of physics. So please allow me to enlighten you, because the original poster is 100% right. You can't make something way more just by folding it up, and it costs more to send a manila envelope than it does a regular one. So they are doing exactly as I asked her, and going forward, you need to let her handle the mail, because that's the reason I assigned her the task. You are not to interfere with her anymore." He then looked at me and said, "If Nancy gives you any more trouble, come tell me and we'll have a nice sit-down talk about it." Well, from that day forward, Nancy refused to speak to me except when she absolutely had to. And you know what? I was perfectly happy about that. About a month after the heavy folded paper confrontation, she suddenly turned in her notice and found another job. The new office manager who replaced her thought this was an absolutely hilarious story and never got tired of us telling her about it. So with all things considered, am I the jerk in this story in any way, shape, or form? Because regardless, this story is incredibly funny. Okay, first off, no, you're definitely not the jerk. Nancy is an absolute fool, and the fact that she acted like that is crazy to me. Like, I understand being proud about your accomplishments, but she's taking this to an entirely different level. Like, this really is so weird, and the fact that she was trying to like hold this over your head is just insane to me. So seriously, good for you for not putting up with this, because her behavior, in my opinion, was so uncalled for, and you did not deserve that in the slightest. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My narcissistic friend is dragging me down with her, as her negative attitude and awful treatment of others around her has isolated her in such a way where I am literally the only person who even cares about her. And at this point, I honestly don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I just need to get this off my chest. My friend, if I can even call her that anymore, is so narcissistic and oblivious that she doesn't even realize that she's driving everybody away, and somehow I'm still stuck trying to save her from herself. She talks crap about everyone behind their backs. I mean, nobody is safe. We're talking friends, coworkers, even people who have genuinely tried to help her out. And then she has the audacity to get hung up on petty things, like people working from home or leaving work early, as if she's the ultimate judge of work ethic. Like seriously? I've seen her fix her own time card more times than I can count, but she acts like she's above it all. What's even worse is how she gaslights me when I try to give her advice. She'll come to me for help and I'll give her realistic suggestions, and then she'll turn around and act like she came up with the idea in the first place. It is honestly maddening. I genuinely try to protect her and get her to be more self-aware, but she's so wrapped up in her own ego that she can't see how she's alienating everyone else. And don't even get me started on how she defends the worst people. At work, there's this employee who is objectively awful. They are lazy, rude, and terrible at their job. Everyone knows it, but she's out here acting like their #1 cheerleader, completely blind to how bad it makes her look. But of course, the problematic people love her because they're the only ones left who can stand her. Meanwhile, everyone else, friends and coworkers alike, have been quietly distancing themselves because her negativity and drama are just too much. Now, what's the worst part about it? I feel like trying to help her is lowering my own stock. I've stood up for her more times than I can count, but she refuses to take accountability or be realistic. Her narcissistic tendencies are holding her back, and at this point, I'm wondering if they're holding me back too. I don't know why I keep trying. Maybe part of me feels bad for her because I see how she's imploding her own life, but I am so exhausted. She gets left out now, and she goes into victim mode, so I try to lift her up. Then she turns around and talks crap again. Has anyone else dealt with someone like this? How do you let go when you know they're dragging you down, but you still feel like you owe them something? What should I do? Honestly, it sounds like you know what you need to do, but for some reason you're unable to do it. Like seriously, this person is clearly dragging you with them because in my opinion, misery absolutely loves company. And this friend, even though I don't think they're actually your friend, would happily drag you along with them if you let them. So seriously, in my opinion, it might be time to find a better friend because the person you described absolutely sounds like someone who's going to ruin your life. Am I the jerk for not letting my wife's family stay at our house for a few extra months after they had been living there for well over 120 days? Because right now, everybody is furious that I'm making them leave. And at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my wife's family came here for a better life from another country, and they were staying at our house. It's a family of 5, and our house isn't the biggest. It only has 1 bathroom, so that's 7 people in the house when it's only meant for 2. We gave them 120 days to find a job and place for themselves. They all found jobs, but they couldn't find an actual place to stay, so they are renting bedrooms, and now they're upset with us because it really seems like they weren't even trying to find a place to stay, and it seems as if they got way too comfortable. single. If they were looking, they would have asked me for help, but they asked me maybe once about it, and that's it. They were not proactive about it at all, and now they're mad at us. I told my wife they had to leave, and now everybody's upset with me. So am I the jerk here? Because honestly, I don't know what to do. No, I don't think you're the jerk. We might not have a lot of information, but I think it's safe to assume that if you're going to another country, then you need to plan way better than just living in a relative's house. Like, you literally opened up your home so that they could stay there, and it was already super inconvenient. Adding 5 people into a house that's only meant for 2 people, like, that must have been insane and so annoying. And seriously, let's think about the alternative here. Let's say you did let them stay a little bit longer. Like, what's the end goal here? Are they seriously expecting to stick around and like not find a place of their own? Why are they getting mad at you for them not planning properly their entire lives? So no, you're not the bad guy here, and you're definitely not the jerk. Because if they really wanted to live in another country, then they absolutely should have planned better. Am I the jerk for defending my boyfriend against my dad after he made some snide remarks about him that put him down in public around my entire family? Because right now I'm still incredibly pissed off. Here's what happened. So I recently had a baby with my boyfriend of 3 years, who we will call Nick. I work as a nurse with crazy hours, and Nick previously worked in a warehouse. When I was pregnant, Nick expressed to me how he wanted to stay at home with the baby at least for the first couple of years, as his dad was not in his life and he wants to soak up every moment of our child's life. And we both agree that this would be best for our baby. I come from a conservative family, and my parents were first not too pleased that we had a baby before marriage. My dad has made little hints here and there to Nick, asking when he's going to make me an honest woman. When I told him that Nick would stay at home with the baby, my dad took his glasses off, he wiped his forehead, and he shook his head. But he did not say anything further. Recently, at a family function, my cousin announced that she is pregnant. Everyone was giving her and her husband congratulations, but my dad made a snide remark to them, saying, "Oh, you should talk to Nick here. He's an expert at the baby stuff." The comment was obviously meant to belittle Nick, and my boyfriend just gave a nervous chuckle and nodded. Later in the day, our baby needed a diaper change. I was in the process of getting up to change him when my dad said to us, "Wait a second, isn't that Nick's role? You do nothing while my daughter works. You can at least change a diaper while she's with her folks." Now at that point, I had had it. I told my dad to stop with his remarks. Nick is an equal partner in our relationship, and he is a wonderful dad who does most of the childcare. I told him just because he didn't do anything when it comes to child rearing for me and my siblings, that does not mean that all men need to be like him, and he needs to get with the times because this isn't uncommon anymore. Well, things got awkward, and my mom quickly changed the subject to something else, and my dad was pretty quiet for the rest of the night. After the event, my dad called me saying I disrespected him in front of our entire family, and that apparently I was out of line. He said I insulted him as a father and that I needed to apologize. But I told him I had nothing to apologize for, and I was tired of him picking on Nick. Well, my mom agrees with my father that I was too harsh on my dad. So seriously, am I the jerk here for defending my boyfriend? Because right now I'm honestly incredibly pissed off. No, I don't think you're the jerk at all. Like, seriously, your dad was being so inappropriate. The fact that this guy was making snide remarks in public nonetheless, essentially putting down Nick and acting like, oh yeah, he doesn't do anything for this family. He's an awful father. The least you can do is change your kid's diaper while my daughter works. Like, all of that is so uncalled for, and if anything, he's the one that was out of line. So I think it's pretty ironic that he's trying to be like, you need to apologize to me. You embarrassed me in front of the family and you were out of line. Because if anything, he's the one that absolutely should be apologizing. Because what you did, in my opinion, is exactly what a partner should do. You defended him against someone that was defaming his name. And in my opinion, Nick did not deserve that in the slightest. My friends are convinced that my boyfriend is only learning ASL so that he can drive a wedge between me and my friends. But now, after they've seen the truth, we've exposed one of my other friends as an absolute snake, as his only intention was to spread seeds of doubt with me and my boyfriend. Here's what happened. So this story is an update to a previous story the original poster covered, where they're dating someone who's learning ASL so that they can better communicate with their brother. Here's what they had to say. So to give the rundown, I've been dating a guy who we will call John for about 5 months. This is my first relationship, and he met my family 2 months ago and had befriended my brother who is deaf. The two of them have been gaming with each other ever since, and John has been apparently learning ASL to communicate with my brother better. However, my friend said that his behavior could be seen as obsessive, emotionally manipulative, and downright creepy. And with that brief introduction out of the way, let me get into some more details. First off, I wanted to thank everyone who gave me their insights on my original post. As I said, I'm very new to relationships, so reading insights outside of my friend group was very eye-opening. To start things off, many people said that my high school friends are untrustworthy and they're awful people who never bothered learning ASL despite knowing me for a long long time, and I will say that I take accountability for this. I'm not saying they're blameless, but it's not entirely their fault. For some context, our family moved to an area when I was in senior year of high school, and this is all due to my dad's job. My friend group, which has 2 guys and 2 girls in it before I joined, was already tight when I came in. They then took me in after I got grouped together for a school project, and they've been with me ever since. I mean, we've been friends for about 4 years now. They're not exactly saints, but they helped me survive my senior year in one piece. They are fun to hang out with, and they were the support I needed when I was struggling. Also, during that time, my brother was having an especially hard time adjusting because of his disability, so my friends never really saw him a lot. To be clear, I was never ashamed of my brother. It's just that whenever my friends came over, he either locked himself in his room or was in a different area with his tutor and never really interacted with us. Whenever he does come out, he is really shy and awkward, so my friends mostly get glimpses of him. By the time my brother became more comfortable in our area and found his own circle of friends, my friends and I had already graduated from high school, and we don't really hang out consistently anymore. They're friendly and polite with my brother, but then again, they never interacted as much, to the point of them actually needing to learn ASL for him. Now, with that bit of context out of the way, let me get back to the update of what happened after the last story. Last week, my friend group had our year-ender party, and I decided to bring John along so that he could meet the rest of my friends. My other friend in the group also brought his girlfriend, so this wasn't really weird. And for reference, others have done this in the past as well. Now, I've commented in the previous post that John had only met my closest guy friend, who I will be calling Mike for the sake of the story, so I wanted the rest of them to form their own opinions of John after they've met him. Initially, there was some weird tension and awkwardness from my friend group towards John, and they were a bit cold, and they were throwing some harsh remarks towards him. Eventually, though, they all warmed up to him, and they were actually pleasantly surprised by his personality. We all got along well, and we all even had fun in our games. However, I could tell that there was still awkward tension coming from Mike towards John and towards the rest of the group. He was throwing meaner jokes more than usual, and he's kind of isolating himself from the activities. The day after the party, I had lunch with my closest friend, who we will call Sophia, just to try and clear the air, because I could tell that they could also sense something was off. Now, a lot of people speculated that Mike had a crush on me and was jealous of my relationship with John, and it turns out that you were all 100% correct, but it's a lot more complicated than that. Apparently, Mike has had a crush on me since our senior year of high school. However, he is known in our school as a notorious ladies' man and had a new girl with him almost every month, and this got exponentially worse during college. He had different hookups almost every night, and he even had a pregnancy scare with a girl last year. I knew all about this because he bragged about sleeping around every time we met up. Now, what I didn't know was that the entire time, Mike has been making up fake stories about me and him. Sophie told me that apparently, Mike and I had a pact that if we were still both single when we were 30, we would apparently marry each other. Also, he told our friend group that we hooked up after graduation, and that he was my first time, if you know what I mean. So he's apparently my special person, whatever that means. He also told them that we'd been secretly hooking up consistently throughout college. And for context, Mike and I go to different universities that are just about 30 minutes apart. Lastly, Mike told them that I said I'm in love with him. He told our friends not to tell me anything, just so I don't get embarrassed or upset, since I have this image of being somewhat of a prude. Mike also told our friend group that when he met John, he thought that John was a total jerk who has been manipulating me and taking advantage of my innocence. He said that John had been forcing himself into my family and is driving a wedge between me and my friends. Mike also said that after he had lunch with me and John, he tried to convince me to stay away from John because he's not a good influence on me, but apparently John had effectively brainwashed me. This explains why my friend group was already so antagonistic towards John, especially when I told them about him. Now, for the record, none of what Mike said was true. There was no pact, we never hooked up, and I never have been in love with him. After that, Sophie and I asked the rest of our friend group, except for Mike, to jump on a FaceTime call with us. They all shared different versions of what Mike had told them, and there were a lot more, but I disputed everything. We were all collectively shocked about everything that we had learned that day. They then apologized for their behavior towards me and John, and I told them I understood given all the lies fed to them by Mike. Then everybody agreed to kick Mike off the friend group. Sophie suggested that maybe we could have an intervention for Mike first, but I just said that I didn't want anything to do with him anymore. The rest of the group agreed, so we essentially just cut him off. Sophie said she would still talk to him just to inform him of everything that happened, but I really just wanted to distance myself from him. Now, it's been a week of being Mike free, and Sophie said that she and another guy friend talked to Mike, and he became extremely defensive. He was confrontational and even aggressive. He wasn't physically violent, comment, but he called them names, attacked their characters, and made such awful statements about everyone in our friend group that I won't include them here. And it's like cutting him off was clearly the right call. But with that in mind, I want to share some uplifting updates. After reading everybody's comments in my previous post, I reflected on my relationship with John and my friends. I then talked to my parents for advice, since they have the best relationship I know of. They told me that from what they saw of John when he visited our home and how I spoke of him, it seems like he is legitimately a nice person with pure intentions. It also helps that John and I have been friends for months before we started dating, so I already knew his character even when there was less pretense of him trying to impress me. I then told John about everything that happened and apologized, fully expecting him to be mad at me for doubting him and his intentions. Instead, he said he understood because of course it was just natural for me to trust my friends and expect them to have my best interests. He then asked me if there was any point in our relationship where I felt uncomfortable or uneasy around him, and I categorically said no. I told him that he's my safe space and he has nothing to worry about. He then reassured me that his intentions with me are genuine, and he even said he sees a future with me, which I reciprocated. Also, John and my brother's friendship is still going strong. In fact, my brother participated in one of John's Dungeons and Dragons sessions with his friends, and John and I both acted as the translators, and we were delighted to see that most of John's friends already know the ASL alphabet, and apparently they even had that included into the lore of their campaign. Also, my brother had been asking John some tips for working out and has been getting really fit lately since they do have the same body type, but John is just a bit more toned. Also, I met John's family for the first time for their annual get-together, and it was super fun. There were games and contests. Also, I wasn't prepared for it, but apparently, since their mom is a theater performer and their dad is a music producer, it was their family tradition to have a talent showcase. They gave me a pass this time, but they told me I should prepare something impressive for next year. John and his brother performed a song by NSYNC, while his sisters and their husbands did Defying Gravity from Wicked. Their parents did the medley from The Sound of Music, and it was just a complete blast. I really felt their family's warm welcome, and they really treated me as one of their own. I could see where John got his good values and good looks from. So that's it for this update. My relationship with John is stronger than ever, and I finally know exactly who my true friends are. Wow, good for you. I love this update because seriously, I knew for a fact that Mike was being weird. This guy's clearly jealous that John is dating the original poster, and he was spreading lies to try and ruin that for you. So good for you for finally knowing the truth, and hopefully your relationship with John continues to work out. An entitled Disney mom cuts the entire line just so she and her stupid kids can get on the line before everybody else. But after waiting in this line for so long, as well as observing her smug attitude as she walked in front of all of us, I decided that enough was enough, as I went out of my way to make sure this lady not only couldn't get on the ride, but also knew that what she was doing was incredibly wrong. And I've honestly never felt better about getting back at somebody in my life. Here's what happened. Today, I visited Disney for the first time since I was 9 years old. It was a super fun day, and while the lines were longer than I remember, maybe I was just excited back in the day. Now, my friend and I discovered the single rider lanes and took advantage of that due to the shorter wait times, and it didn't matter to us to ride separately. As we were waiting in that line, a family of four, namely a mom, 2 daughters, and a dad, walked through the middle of the line holding hands. Several people are disgruntled and asking what they're doing, but the mom then claims that they forgot something on the ride. They then make it to the part of the ride where single riders, fast pass riders, and the original line are all in a similar area. One of the ladies behind me then screams out, "Well, what did you forget?" And at this point, everyone in the single rider lane is fuming, as we all realize she's just waiting to get on the ride with her kids. They even got shuffled into the pre-ride movie area before my friend and I, and at this point we are shocked that no one brought it to any of the staff's attention. Meanwhile, all the single riders are trauma bonding over this lady's boldness and entitlement. So when my friend and I got shuffled into the pre-ride movie area, I tell one of the staff what the lady and her kids looked like and what she did. He says at this point, since they are already in line to board the car, he literally can't do anything about it. Well, we make it to the boarding line, and lo and behold, there's the lady and her 2 kids. Well, not wanting to let this go, I stop yet another employee, and I explain the situation. Now, she says she will let someone know, but walks in the opposite direction of the rider operators. Then, one of the kids runs up to a man directly behind my friend and I, pulls on his arms and says, "Come on, Dad." We then turn around and Dad is behind us, but he refuses to join his family, probably because he heard everyone in line complaining about what they did. So right then and there, the entire line starts to speak louder. They were saying stuff like, "Well, what a terrible example to set for your children. What makes them feel so entitled? Everyone's waiting the same, some people for hours. Why do they think they're special? Why lie to get what you want?" The whole whole line at this point is loudly speaking, so these people know exactly what we think of them. The dad continues to hang back and let people get in front of him as he hangs his head in shame and his family inches closer to the front of the line. Now, at this point, I had had enough. I talked to the people in front of me and I asked if I could go let the ride operators know what happened, because I'm not letting this go and I'm not going to let them get on this ride. So I asked the people in front of me to let me warn the ride operators, and they were all happy to step aside. Now, at this point, the entitled mom is blocking the walkway because they are quite literally next to get on the ride. I tap her on her side and I say, "Excuse me," and then I stare her down. She slides over without a word, and I then tell the ride operator, "Look, this lady and her 2 children cut the entire line through the single rider's line, claiming that she forgot something, and you can ask anybody about this in line." This entitled mom then gives me the most evil, disgusted, shocked glare. I walk back to where my friend was, and another woman goes up to the line operator to verify my story. Now, this entitled Disney mom is trying to say both of us are lying, but then everyone in line starts yelling, and they were all telling the exact same story, determined to not let her or her kids on the ride. Well, as a result, they were eventually escorted out the side door, and when that happened, everybody in line started to clap, because this entitled Disney mom absolutely deserved it. Oh my gosh, I love this so much because, my god, people at amusement parks, especially at like Disney World or Disneyland or something like that, they are literally the worst people to deal with sometimes. I would say most of the time when you go to those kind of places, it's usually a fine experience and nothing really bad happens. But then you have these Disney adults that take it way too seriously, and they think they're entitled to just walk in front of everybody and get exactly what they want. And it's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I wasn't waiting in line for an hour to go on this 2-minute ride. There's no way in the world you're gonna get in front of me." So good for you for saying something and making sure she got exactly what she deserved, because her attitude as well as her entitlement is absolutely unacceptable. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for not buying my entitled mother a birthday gift? All because my wife and I just had a baby and money is incredibly tight. Because right now my mom is very upset, and at this point I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my fiance and I just had a baby back on December 16th. We are both on parental leave and money is tight. We have bills and we just had Christmas, not to mention the fact that we have a 3-week-old baby. Now here's where the situation really starts. My mother's birthday is the first week of January and she has asked for a gift. I had politely stated I can't afford to get her a gift this year, and if I do, it will be late. I was respectful in hopes that she would be understanding, but I was completely wrong. Her response was along the lines of, "Oh, I'll just forget about your birthday this year then," which is like, okay, fine, I don't care about my birthday anyways. But this was the icing on the cake. I told her I couldn't get her a gift and I didn't care if she forgot my birthday. In response to that, my mom started blaming my fiance for me not getting her a gift and calling this whole conversation mistreatment, basically insinuating that we are neglecting her or outcasting her. For more background, ever since my fiance got pregnant in April of 2024, my mom has tried to make the whole experience about her. She got mad when my fiance didn't take her to the appointments with her. She got mad when I found out about the gender with my fiance. She was upset with the last name we gave our son and made side comments about how my fiance's mom was allowed in the delivery room and not her. Not to mention all the side comments saying my fiance is a jerk or is paranoid. I have defended my fiance through all of it, but it is honestly just getting ridiculous. So am I the jerk at all against my mom? Because right now I don't know what to do. No, you're not the jerk at all. Your mom is being weird and it's honestly not fair. She knows for a fact you guys have no money. You guys are literally 3 weeks into being new parents. The fact that she's being so selfish, in my opinion, is unacceptable. So no, you're not the jerk for not wanting to get her a gift, because the way she's acting, in my opinion, is incredibly annoying. Am I the jerk for not wanting to pay my father-in-law for home repairs that I never asked him to make? Because right now he's quoting me at nearly $1,000 for work that I could have gotten done for much cheaper. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 34-year-old female, and recently I went on vacation with my family to our home in North Carolina. And for reference, this is a home that I inherited from my parents. This house is usually rented out as an Airbnb, but due to recent hurricanes, I've been struggling to rent it out and have been doing most of the maintenance myself to save the cost. During our vacation, my father-in-law said he wanted to visit. I reluctantly agreed, and he flew down to North Carolina to stay in one of the spare bedrooms. Since he doesn't have much money, we covered all of his food and restaurant meals during his stay. While we were there, I had a few maintenance items on my list, including repairing running toilets, replacing a sink, and repainting the stairs. Now, I had planned to hire a plumber for $350 so that they could fix the toilets, and I would just paint the stairs myself. Well, my father-in-law offered to help, saying that he and my husband could replace the toilets and repaint the stairs. Now, I agreed, thinking it would be fine. However, during the process, my father-in-law cracked the bathtub, which now needs to be repaired, adding it to my cost. Now, this is the part that is truly enraging. At the end of his visit, my father-in-law told me I owed him $850 for the work that he did. And when he said this, I was shocked because there was no prior discussion about him charging for his help. Considering we provided him with free lodging and meals, and given the bathtub incident, I feel it's unfair to pay him this amount. I haven't responded to him yet, but I don't plan on paying him a single dime. So am I the jerk for not wanting to pay him? Because right now I'm incredibly frustrated. No, of course you're not the jerk here. Your father-in-law is out of his mind if he thinks he can get that kind of money out of you. Like, first of all, this would have cost what, $350 to fix? And this guy comes in and says, oh, I'm sorry, it's gonna cost close to $1,000 now because I messed it up. And it's like, dude, I didn't even want you to help out. Because at the end of the day, he was the one that offered to help out, not you. And the only reason it's gonna cost you more money is because he damaged your property. Like, this is literally his own fault. So if anything, he should be the one to pay for all the stuff he damaged. And it absolutely should not come out of your back pocket. An entitled teenager makes a scene outside of our hotel room. And despite the fact that we're trying to get up early for a funeral the next day, this idiotic teenager refuses to shut up, forcing us to get the hotel security involved just to get him to quiet down. Here's what happened. Okay, so this happened back in November when we were visiting Texas for my uncle's funeral. It all took place a day before the actual funeral itself, and we were all just tired from driving all around town, getting house supplies and groceries for my now widowed aunt, as well as the viewing of my uncle's body. The funeral was going to be held pretty early in the morning, so we decided to go to sleep early after we had dinner at the Chili's across the parking lot from our hotel. Now, I was sharing a room with my mother and father to save some money, as I'd spent quite a bit in preparation for Christmas, so they were more than happy to let me stay with them during our visit. Well, it was 9 o'clock at night, and we heard shouting coming from outside our room. It sounded pretty nasally and young, so I could only assume it was a teenager talking on the phone or something like that. I look outside the peephole, and I saw a 15 or 16-year-old boy wearing a headset with an Alienware laptop plugged into a charger outlet that he had plugged into the wall. Now, this kept going for 15 straight minutes, so my father decided to ask the boy to please be quiet. My father opens the door and gets the boy's attention before saying, "Hi, so listen, we can actually hear you talking through the walls. You're talking pretty loud, and we actually have a funeral to be at tomorrow. If you could please play in your room or in the hotel lobby, we would really appreciate that." Well, this kid replies by saying, "Well, I'm not talking loud." But my father says, "Well, we can hear you through the walls, so you must not realize you're talking so loudly into your headset." Now, this kid just keeps arguing that he's not talking loudly, but at this point, my father gets a bit more stern. He tells this brat he needs to find somewhere else to play and that we're trying to sleep before shutting the door. 15 more minutes pass and he's still being loud as he talks into his headset playing games. I then told my father to just call the front desk. Maybe they will be able to get him to be quiet. And so he does just that. He gets on the phone and explains everything to the night auditor. And then he hangs up saying, "You'll smell him before you see him," which really made me laugh if I'm being honest. He then looked to me and explained how the kid smelled like he hadn't showered in weeks or something like that, because he could smell the most ungodly smell when he was talking to that kid. My mother even said she could smell that exact same odor in the hotel elevator, even though the kid wasn't in the elevator with her during the time. I could even smell it in the hotel stairway after I was coming back from the McDonald's down the street. Hotel security eventually shows up and tells the kid more or less the same thing my father told him, and this time he gets more louder and screams at them, saying that he's not being loud and that everyone's just out to get him. My father and I stood close to the door with our ears pressed against it to try and hear what was going on, and we could hear this kid screaming at the security officers and even his own parents. He just screamed out loud, "And you keep wondering why I keep saying I don't want to be alive." And he basically just kept screaming a bunch of empty threats to them and refused to get up from where he was sitting and allow everyone else to go to sleep. Every 10 to 15 minutes, he would start up again with his parents and more security officers, shouting and screaming the same veiled threats of wanting to do harm to himself, if you know what I mean, while also saying how everyone's just attacking him because he's a teenager and just because he's playing video games. And it's like, yeah, dude, that's why everybody's telling you to be quiet when it's almost 11 at night. Sure, keep telling yourself that. 11:30 comes around and the parents come back one last time to try and get their son to be quiet. I remember the mom saying, "Please, just come back to the room. Everyone else is trying to sleep and you're talking very loudly." She said this really sweet and calmly, by the way, not aggressive or sounding like she was barking an order at him. Well, how does this kid reply? He starts mockingly shouting, "Everyone's just trying to sleep. Everyone's trying to sleep and you're talking loudly, even though I'm not being loud." And the last part of his sentence actually got a giggle out of me when he said, "All everybody knows how to do is act like a bunch of grumpy old men and just leave me alone," referring to my father, by the way, who restrained himself from going outside and shouting and just reading him the riot act like he did back when he was a cop with the perps he arrested. The kid then stomped his foot loudly enough that it sounded like someone popped a balloon and slammed his computer shut so hard that it sounded like he cracked the screen before going inside the room and slammed the door behind him twice as loudly as he shut the laptop. We managed to get sleep around midnight, and it was all we could talk about the next morning during breakfast. My sister and her fiance could hear the shouting as well, but couldn't make out what the kid was trying to say, as their room was at the opposite end of the hallway. My cousin and her boyfriend were in the floor right above us, and they could hear everything, as their room was right on top of where this kid had his multiple tantrums. The incident stayed in my head as I flew back home 2 days after the funeral, and I really feel terrible for those parents for putting up with a kid with such an entitled attitude and the most horrible body odor known to mankind. Wow, I cannot stand people who act like this, who really have no self-awareness of how loud they're actually being. Like seriously, this guy could have gone down to the lobby and played to his heart's content until he turned blue in the face. Like no one's gonna be down there at that hour, and certainly no one's gonna bother him at all. So the fact that he was so adamant about sitting in this hallway and making all this noise, that in my opinion is so unacceptable, and this kid absolutely deserved to get shut down. This next story came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own story. Am I the jerk for not letting my roommate use my emergency savings to cover her rent? Because right now she's calling me selfish, claiming that I'm not a real friend, while also telling my mutual friends that I'm intentionally letting her struggle when I could easily just help her out. But right now I feel incredibly frustrated, and at this point I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 25-year-old female and I live with my roommate who we will call Kara. We've been friends since college, and while living together has been mostly fine, Kara isn't great with money. She often splurges on things like designer clothing, eating out, and spontaneous trips, and I've always kept quiet about it because it's her life. Well, last week, Kara told me that she is short on rent this month, all because of a surprise expense. When I asked her what happened, she admitted that she went on a weekend getaway with friends, thinking that she'd be able to figure it out later. Well, now later is here, and she doesn't have enough money to pay her half of the rent. Kara then asked me if she could borrow money from me, specifically from my emergency savings. But I said no. Those savings are for emergencies, unexpected car repairs, medical bills, or losing my job, meaning that they're not meant for covering her overspending. I told her she should reach out to her family or look into short-term loans. When I said this, she got upset with me and said I was being selfish and not a real friend. She argued that it wouldn't be a big deal for me to lend her the money because I have the savings, and she said she would pay me back soon, even though she couldn't specify when. But I just stood firm. I said to her, I am not your safety net when you decide to blow your budget. Since then, Kara has been cold and distant. She's been telling mutual friends that I'm letting her struggle when I could easily help her out. Some of them think that I should have just lent her the money to avoid the drama, while others agree that her poor planning isn't my responsibility. So seriously, am I the jerk in this situation? Because right now I don't know what to do. No, you are definitely not the jerk. Her lack of planning is not your emergency, and it certainly is not going to come out of your emergency savings. The fact that she sees you as some kind of like bank account or piggy bank she can pull money from, that in my opinion is the mark of someone who is using you, as well as someone who is absolutely not your real friend. Like seriously, who in their right mind would go for a weekend getaway and then be like, oh, don't worry, I'll figure out rent later. And it's like, wait a second, your way of figuring it out is just getting money from me. So no, you're not the jerk here. This is absolutely ridiculous. And the fact that she would try to guilt trip you into giving her money, in my opinion, says all that you would ever need to know about her. Am I the jerk for leaving my mother's party after she insulted my daughter? Because right now I'm still incredibly mad and I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 36-year-old female and I have a stepdaughter who we will call Anna for the sake of the story. Her father and I married when Anna was 2 years old. Now I consider her to be my real daughter in every way that matters, and I love her just as much as my biological children. Most of my family adores Anna as she is very sweet and she's a hard-working girl who does her very best to make them proud. However, my mother appears to not be like this. She's never outright said that she dislikes my daughter or why, but I've always thought it's because Anna wasn't my biological child. I've been teaching Anna how to cook for a few years now, and she asked me last year if she could start bringing her cooking to family gatherings gatherings and potlucks, and of course I agreed. Well, when we started doing that, my mother started critiquing Anna's dishes. It began with just suggestions, like she could add different spices or cook an ingredient a little bit longer, but over the past few months, it's been getting worse. And here's the thing, she doesn't criticize any of the dishes from any of the other family members. Well, this Thanksgiving, she told Anna that the casserole she made was disgusting and inedible. When I heard this, I told my mom to stop criticizing Anna and that she was doing her best. But when I told her that, she just brushed me off, which was honestly my final straw. Fast forward, and my family was in town this week so that we could all celebrate my mother's birthday. And since I had everybody there, I decided to try and play a trick on my mother. I had some curry that my mother had made about 6 months ago, and it was given to me to freeze. So I reheated it and I brought it to the party. And I told everyone Anna had worked very hard to make it, just like her grandmother always did. Well, wouldn't you guess it? Immediately, my mother started criticizing the curry, saying how Anna had added too much spice, and she apparently overcooked the chicken. She even went as far as to tell Anna that she should stop bringing food to potlucks altogether. Now, I had not intended to make a big deal out of this, but that comment crossed a line. So it was right then that I decided to reveal my scheme. I informed my mother that it was her own curry that had been reheated, and Anna had not actually cooked any of it. Well, when I said that, she immediately started sputtering and backpedaled, saying she was just trying to give constructive criticism and to try and make Anna a better cook. But I knew that she did not believe it. I asked her why she would treat my own stepdaughter so badly, and she admitted that she didn't see Anna as her real grandchild. And when she said this to me, that honestly was my final straw. I found my husband, I found Anna, and my other children, and I told them that we had to leave, explaining what my mother had said. And we probably won't be attending any family gatherings for the foreseeable future either. Well, my mom has gone full scorched earth on Facebook, and most family members have taken her side. She says that I ruined her party by leaving, and that I destroyed our relationship for someone who isn't even my real child. My husband is on my side, but he thinks that we shouldn't have left the party, since I had already proven my point. So am I the jerk for leaving my mother's party, as well as for calling her out in the way that I did? Because right now, with all things considered, I'm still incredibly pissed off. Oh my god, this is unbelievable. First of all, no, you are definitely not the jerk. If anything, you're a fantastic parent, and you're exactly what your daughter needs. To start things out, your mom is a monster. The fact that she would say, oh, she's not your real child, and I don't consider her a real grandchild either, to me is honestly one of the worst things that she could ever say in this situation. Because seriously, why on earth would you act like that towards somebody else's kid? So I honestly don't blame you for leaving that stupid party. Because seriously, what your mom did was so disgusting. She's been criticizing Anna left and right and treating her like garbage all because she's not a real grandchild. You know, whatever that means. But I just love the fact that you tricked her and caught her right in her words. Because that could have been the best dish of curry you've ever made in your life. And in fact, it was your mom's own recipe. So the fact that she thought it was Anna's was the only reason she was going to criticize it, even though she herself was the one that cooked that dish in the first place. This is all so wild to me, especially the fact that anybody's taking her side. Like seriously, they expect you to stick around and stay at the party? No, that's not gonna happen. If that was my kid, I would absolutely leave. Because if anyone has the right to go scorched earth, it's you. Because you caught her exactly where you wanted her. And if the rest of the family wants to be her flying monkeys, then honestly, they can go for it. I would not want anything to do with family members who actually feel that way about my kid. So no, you are definitely not the jerk here. Your mom is a piece of garbage, and so is anybody taking her side. Because there is nothing wrong with Anna being your stepdaughter. And if people seriously cannot accept her, then they're the ones with the problem and not you. An entitled Karen rolls up to our food bank, demanding that we give her all of the bacon and steak we can possibly find. As she says she has a barbecue coming up, and she needs the steak and bacon, otherwise her barbecue is gonna be ruined. And I've honestly never met anybody more ingrateful in my life. Here's what happened. During one summer, I decided to volunteer at a food bank that was right down the road from my house. I had expected it to just be canned foods or something similar, but this place was really amazing. They would put together grocery carts of food that were donated from nearby grocery stores. One box of vegetables and fruit, a box of meat and bread and some food, some drinks, some canned foods and desserts. And if you were one of the first 20 people or so, they would give you a full blank cake. Now, I was in charge of the door, which meant taking everyone's tickets for the day and giving them their cart full of food. I had just closed the door to wait for more carts to be finished when I heard someone banging on the door. Now, this wasn't the first time this has happened. Some people think I might have forgotten about them or something like that. So I opened the door and politely said, "Don't worry, there should be another cart ready in a moment." Well, this is when the entitled Karen enters this story. The last person got their cart right away. I explained that their cart was ready, but that there were no carts ready at this time. Then, miraculously, someone finished their cart, and I was relieved that I wouldn't have to deal with some impatient Karen anymore, but boy was I wrong. Before even looking at the cart, she said to me, "I need bacon and steak in my meat box." But I responded by saying, "Oh, I don't think we have that." But she was definitely not having that, as she shouted at me and said, "Well, just go check then." And she said that as she made a shooing motion with her hands. Well, awkwardly, I closed the door and I went into the kitchen, and I asked if there were any bacon or steak. Now, it wasn't the first time someone had asked for something specific, but bacon and steak was a pretty tall order. The person working on the meat laughed at me and said, "We get donated what people don't want. Tell her that we don't have any." I went back to the door and I apologized, relaying the message that we didn't have any. She let out a loud huff and said, "Then how am I supposed to hold my barbecue?" Now, I didn't want to be judgmental, but I was secretly thinking, wow, you're holding a barbecue with food bank food. Next, she picked up the cake and said, "Now here's something useful. I need you to write happy 4th birthday right on the top of it." But I said to her, "Well, that's donated from a store, so we didn't make it." But again, she was not having it, as she looked at me and said, "And go put words on it right now." I responded by saying, "Well, we don't have frosting and we can't do that. Plus, none of us are trained in writing and frosting as far as I know, so I doubt it would turn out well even if we could." She let out a frustrated huff again and said under her breath, "This place is useless." She then tried to grab the cart and bring it outside, and this is a very common thing for us to happen, but I dug my heels into the floor while explaining that you can't bring the cart outside. She responded by saying, "Then how am I supposed to get the food in my car?" I then pointed to the metal tables and I explained, "You put the boxes on the tables and drive your car up to them." Well, apparently this was the final straw for her, because she started yelling at me in a way that I honestly never expected. "I am never coming back here ever again. You have been nothing but rude to me and have given me barely anything of worth." I don't really remember much else of what she said because I was near tearful, but it was mainly ranting about how this establishment was useless and she was never going to come back here ever again. And honestly, good riddance. She finally started grabbing the boxes of food and brought them to the metal tables. I was relieved as the last box was taken and quickly closed the door, thinking that was the last I'd ever see of her. But through the door, I could hear her car squealing away and her laying on the horn for some reason. I peeked through the peephole and I watched her honk at a parked car a few times before realizing there was no one in it and then swerving around it, blowing through the stop sign and squealing away. A minute later, there was a soft knock at the door. I opened it up and I was met with a woman looking nervous. She said to me, "That woman left some boxes behind." And sure enough, on the metal table was all of the fruits and vegetables and the bread and some boxed food. She basically took the meats and desserts and left everything else. So I told the lady that she could have them along with her cart if she wanted them, because we can't bring the food back inside and give it to someone else. Well, when I said that, her eyes filled with tears and she started thanking me profusely. So at least one good thing came out of this entitled Karen's wrath. I ended up telling the other workers and they were shocked. Apparently, they'd never met anyone that was less than grateful about receiving so much food when they're in a tight spot, even though some of them had worked there for several years. Wow, the Karen in this story is so toxic. Imagine being so cheap and so ungrateful that you go to a food bank and start barking demands. Because let's be real for a second, she only showed up so she could get free food for her stupid barbecue. She wasn't there because she needed to be there. She was there because she literally wanted a free handout. Like, I doubt she even needed this food in the first place, especially not out of some actual desperate need for food. Like, this is clearly just someone taking advantage of the system. And that is so weird. That is so toxic. So yeah, that lady was a giant piece of crap and hopefully she never went back there ever again. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for demanding that my brother replace a product 1 for 1 after he kept stealing it all the way to the point of emptying the bottle I bought? Because right now he's trying to buy a cheap knockoff to replace my expensive product, and at this point I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I live with my twin brother and have for a few years now. Our dynamic is typically fine, but he will take advantage of me at times, like playing my PlayStation when he didn't ask, and taking various things out of my room without asking. Now, I have weather-related allergies and I take a pill as needed. A few months ago, I bought a bottle of 90 of those pills for a total of $36 from a local drugstore. I don't take them every day, and there's 90 in the bottle, so it's hard to keep track of them. A few months ago, though, I did notice that the bottle seems to be getting emptier, despite me not taking a pill every day. I thought that was a little odd, but didn't really think anything of it. But then, just about a month ago, I noticed it significantly more empty than before. So I decided to count them and found there were about 15 pills or so in the bottle. Fast forward to last night and I wanted to take a pill. So I opened the bottle and I noticed there was one pill left. And it was then I immediately suspected my brother of taking them, obviously without asking. So I confronted him about it. He admitted to taking them, but he questioned how many I think that he took. I said I obviously didn't have a clue, but it seems like it's been happening for months. He then got incredibly defensive. He said to me, "Bro, it's just an allergy pill. It's not money. It's not a prescription." But I said that it's the principle. It doesn't matter what it is. You don't steal. I then demanded he replace the product, to go to the pharmacy website and order the exact bottle because it is a one-for-one compensation. And the price I got is exactly what he will pay for the product. Now, he thought that was ridiculous, but he said he could get a bottle of like 300 pills on Amazon for like $15 instead of $90 for $36. Now, is it more expensive? Sure, of course it is. But that's the price I paid, despite it being cheaper everywhere else. Well, he wouldn't budge. He said that he's ordering this for me or nothing at all. He then called me a jerk for demanding this, but he doesn't see it the way that I do at all. So am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? No, I don't think you're the jerk at all because this sounds like a premium product. It sounds like you spent more on a product that you know works better than some cheap crap you'll find on Amazon. So to that end, I don't blame you for a second for being not only pissed off, but being like, no, you have to replace this specifically. And you're not looking for some knockoff brand. You're looking for what you got at the pharmacy. And yeah, it's not a prescription, but guess what? It's still yours. And to be completely honest, it sounds like your brother has a habit of just taking your stuff and not asking. And that is not okay in my opinion. Like that really does suck and you don't deserve that. So the fact that he's trying to be like, well, I'm not going to buy this premium product, but I'll get you this cheap knockoff instead. And it's like, no, you can't do that. If you're going to take my stuff, regardless of what it is, then you've got to pay the price and pay me back for it. So all that's to say is that no, you're definitely not the jerk because the way your brother's acting, in my opinion, is incredibly entitled. I found out that my long-term boyfriend originally only approached me because he wanted to get my friend's number. And now I feel completely betrayed. And at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So me and my boyfriend have been together for 2 years now. We met at a party and I thought we hit it off instantly. And I was really happy when he asked for my Instagram so we could keep talking. I'm truly and completely in love with him. And we've talked about getting married and everything. And he's been so caring and kind to me all this time. His friends had come over a few days ago to hang out. And since I'm pretty friendly with them, I was there and chatting as well. We were drinking, everyone was pretty tipsy, and someone started teasing him about me and how he's really softened up and settled down. Then one of his friends made a comment about how he probably never expected his future wife to be Rachel's friend. And for context, the woman by the name of Rachel, that's not her real name, is someone I'm friends with. And we attended the party together. And at the time, we were pretty new to the bigger friend group. He just told his friend to shut up and was pretty tense about it the rest of the night. Now, I asked him about it, and he said it was nothing. But once I kept pressing, he eventually confessed that he had seen Rachel around and originally attended the party only to get to know her, which means he probably only approached me in the first place because he knew we were friends. He told me it didn't mean anything, and that any interest he had in Rachel vanished after we started talking, and he asked for my socials later because he could tell we had chemistry. But right now, I'm really heartbroken. I remember thinking he was cute that first night and being so happy that he chose me of all people to talk to. But now, knowing that all of it was only to get Rachel has made me feel absolutely terrible. Rachel also has had a boyfriend for the past 5 years, so I can't stop thinking about how he probably just cut his losses and decided to go out with me because I was so obviously attracted to him. I'm not bad looking in my opinion. I think I look pretty average, but my friends are way prettier and have always been more popular. And I've always known that people were mostly attracted to me because of my personality and not my looks. But I really thought he was different because he's always complimenting me and telling me how pretty I look, and now it all just feels like a lie. He's been acting really sweet the past few days since it happened, and it's only making me angrier because I know he's trying to walk on eggshells to make me feel better. So seriously, I feel like I'm at such an impasse because right now I just don't know what to do. Okay, honestly, I think you are kind of overreacting right now because seriously, it sounds like your boyfriend loves you. Sure, he was interested in your friend at first, but then he got to know you and he's like, wait, I like you way more. And honestly, that's not totally out of the ordinary. That really does sound like an ordinary situation and it's totally fine. So sure, I think it's okay to feel a little bit bad about this, but I would not allow this to get in the way of what you have currently with your boyfriend. He clearly loves you, otherwise he wouldn't have stuck with you for 2 years. And I think just because he liked Rachel first doesn't mean that he doesn't love you right now. So if I was in your shoes, I would not be overthinking this, because in my opinion, this definitely is not a deal breaker. An entitled Karen demands that I fix my yard, as she claims that the flowers I'm planting in my yard are not compliant with the homeowners association. So I decide to maliciously comply and get some revenge by planting planting some of the most obnoxious looking plants you've ever seen in your life. And I honestly have never felt better about putting somebody in their place in my life. Here's what happened. Okay, so let me tell you about my dear neighbor Karen. And yes, that Karen. And I'm sure you know the type of person I'm talking about. They have a clipboard, their self-righteous attitude, they're always sniffing out problems that don't exist. She's not even on the Homeowners Association board, but she acts like she's the president of the universe. The issue started when I decided to brighten up my yard with colorful flowers. Nothing crazy, just some tulips, some daisies, and a little garden patch. And sure, you might be thinking this is harmless, right? Well, not according to the Karen. One afternoon, she stomps over, waving her little handbook like it's the Bible, and she's Moses coming down from the mountain. She starts screeching at me, "Those flowers aren't in compliance. You're violating section 12.4. Only native plants are allowed." Now, I try to reason with her by saying, "Karen, the neighborhood guidelines just say that the yard has to be well maintained. These flowers are fine." But no, this entitled Karen wasn't having it. She just said she was going to report me to the HOA because according to her, the rules are the rules. So I think to myself, okay, fine. If you want me to follow the rules, then that's exactly what I'm gonna do. And it's right about now that my malicious compliance comes into play. So I did some research and I found every obnoxious native plant I could get my hands on. We're talking stuff like thorny bushes, spiky grasses, a massive yucca plant that looks like it's about to eat a small animal. I mean, you name it, and I planted it front and center. By the time I was done, my yard looked like a post-apocalyptic jungle, but every single plant was 100% native to the area. And let me tell you, I double-checked the guidelines to make sure I was bulletproof. Well, this entitled Karen comes stomping back a week later. She's furious with me, screaming, "This is unacceptable. Your yard looks terrible." And she's literally screaming this at me while also flailing her clipboard around. I say to her, "Oh, Karen," in the sweetest smile I could muster, "you were so right. My flowers weren't compliant, but these are all native plants, just like the rules you pointed out. Isn't it great?" Well, when I said that, she sputtered like a broken engine and then ran off to the HOA. They reviewed my yard, and guess what? I was completely in compliance. And as a result, the Karen ended up getting a warning from the board for harassing neighbors. So now I sit on my porch sipping coffee surrounded by my chaotic jungle of compliance, while this entitled Karen avoids making eye contact every time she walks by. And honestly, this little victory feels absolutely amazing. Okay, I can kind of see why HOAs would be important, but the fact that this lady's like, "Oh, these flowers don't fit the guidelines," and was just acting super obnoxious about all of this, like that is so crazy to me, it's not even funny. Like seriously, you're not hurting anybody. You're literally just trying to plant flowers in your yard, you know, to try and make the area look good. And this lady's really going over every single flower and being like, that's not allowed." It's like, my God, get a life. What is wrong with you? So good for you for getting some really nice petty revenge, because this Karen absolutely had it coming. Today, my thieving roommate, who's currently being evicted, tried to watch my movie while I was sitting in my living room. So I decided to get petty and pause my movie until they left, making it quite clear that they are definitely not welcome in my home. Here's what happened. I'm a 27-year-old female with roommates, and one of them is a thief. And at the moment, they are being kicked out, but that takes some time. But in the meantime, I'm still living in my home as I should. So just now, I was sitting on the couch watching a Netflix movie when the thief went to the kitchen to cook. It's especially tense since I caught them stealing again yesterday, and that's when I gave them notice that they need to move out. As I'm sitting here watching this movie, I noticed that they had stopped what they were doing for an extended period of time. And that's when I realized that this idiot was standing there watching the movie I had on as if this was some kind of hangout time. Like, please get done what you need to and go back to your own space. Your thieving presence is clearly not welcome anymore. And this was never meant to be a shared hangout area in the first place. So I paused the movie and they suddenly went back to cooking. I mean, they could not have been more obvious. So after that, I had it paused until they went back to their part of the house. And my petty self sat here in silence for 15 minutes until they left. Now, as a bonus, yesterday I told them that they have until tomorrow at a certain time to get their food out of my pantry, because after that, I'm installing a coded gate lock onto it. I also made a point of aiming a security camera explicitly at the pantry. They knew they were being recorded before, which makes them stealing even more wild. But I want them to really feel it now, because if you're going to act like a criminal and steal from me, then I'm gonna treat you like one in return. Oh man, this is such an awful one. Seriously, you've got a known sketchy roommate and you're trying to get them out, and here they are trying to like watch your Netflix movie with you. And it's like, seriously, read the room, buddy. What are we doing right now? It's crazy to me that they not only steal while there's cameras around, but also have the audacity to even show their face in the first place. So honestly, I think it's good that you're getting rid of them, because that's not someone I would ever want to live with. Am I the jerk for trying to get my neighbors to not block my front door after they've repeatedly blocked it with a very large stroller that would prevent me from even getting out in the case of a fire, because right now they are super pissed at me after I complained, and at this point I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I live in New York City, and I recently moved into a small building that has 3 stories and 6 apartments in total. My apartment is a ground floor unit, and from move-in, my neighbors have been storing their large stroller in front of my front door, which poses problems every time I have to come and go from my apartment. It is also against fire code and explicitly forbidden in the building's leases. The stroller is there every day unless their kid decides he doesn't want to walk. One day when I heard them leaving it there, I introduced myself and politely told them that leaving their stroller there was causing me issues, and it is against the city's fire code. I then asked them to no longer keep their stroller in front of my front door. Well, the female neighbor gave me excuses that they live on the 3rd floor, but the husband literally straight up raised his voice at me. And this is all while I was holding my infant daughter. The woman said that as a compromise, she would fold the stroller when leaving it at my front door. Now, as time went on, the stroller has never been folded up and continued to block my door. Well, as it is against the fire code and explicitly forbidden in the lease, I decided to reach out to the property manager to help resolve this issue. I just want to be able to safely come and go from my apartment. Well, fast forward, and the day the property management enforced this on these neighbors, the female neighbor rang my doorbell and proceeded to refuse to speak to me and just called her mother instead. And at this point, her mother then berated me on speakerphone and said I should have spoken to them first, ignoring me when I said I did. She then kind of threatened me by saying that I complained about the wrong people. Now at this point, I was stunned and I couldn't believe this was happening. All I could muster was insisting that it is against the fire code and no one gets to break the fire code no matter who they are. I am truly baffled by this behavior. I found it to be a very bizarre confrontation, and I didn't know adults could act this way. I mean, I've never had issues with neighbors before. I have a child younger than theirs, and I empathize with their situation, but their kid is massive and completely able to walk, because at the end of the day, I just wanted access to my front door. So seriously, am I the jerk in this situation for all the things that have gone down? Because right now, I'm still incredibly annoyed. Wow, I can't believe that they not only complained about you complaining about them, but this lady literally couldn't address you herself. She had to go through her mother. And for reference, in case anyone's wondering, this lady is 40 years old, and she's calling up her mom to handle her problems. Like seriously, what is going on right now? And the fact that these people would be like, oh yeah, you definitely should let us block your doorway so we can do whatever we want. It's like, lady, what if there's a fire? How am I supposed to get out of my apartment? Like, the fact that they're upset about this is insane. They do know they live in New York City, right? This place is packed full of people and there's no room for anything. So maybe get a smaller stroller if you really need one. And don't block someone else's doorway and be like, oh, this is your fault. So no, you're definitely not the jerk, because these people, in my opinion, are completely crazy. I'm worried that my job might be exploiting me, as I feel like my job responsibilities are way outside what I was expected to do, because at this point, I seriously am considering switching jobs. Here's what happened. So to start things off, I'm a student and I work as a hostess. Since I'm an immigrant, this job is helping me at the moment, or at least I thought so until I realized how tired I get when I come home after my shift, even though it's not every day. And as a result, I've started rethinking this job. First, I began to notice how much extra work I'm doing beyond seating people, taking notes, and arranging tables for larger groups. I also have to separate tables after the groups leave, bus all the tables, and organize dirty dishes in the kitchen, since if I don't, there's no space for my own. On top of that, I refill drinks on the freezer when they run out, restock paper plates, handle takeout orders, clean the doors if they're too dirty, take tips from the tables to the front desk, restock the menus, the crayons, and the silverware, and at the end of the day, I clean the mirrors, the sinks, I refill the toilet, and I take out the trash in both the women's and the men's bathrooms. I've started wondering if it's really worth continuing and if I'm working more than I should, since I thought that my job was just to be greeting and seating people. I earned $16 an hour and I got some tips at the end of the shift, but not consistently. Each waitress gives me her personal share of tips, but some of them don't because I just don't think they want to. On the other hand, the job is extremely flexible, and I can order and take home anything I want from the menu. Even so, I'm not sure if I'm wrong to feel like I do more than I should, especially on nights where it's incredibly busy with 3 or 4 servers and only me as the hostess. And when I do have another hostess during my shift, even though they're supposed to help me out, they usually do the bare minimum, like just taking orders and chatting with customers and managers about life, while I'm left doing literally everything else. Also, the waitresses rarely help clean up. They might do a little, but often they leave me to handle more than 10 tables while they eat or do lighter tasks like preparing cutlery, and this is all when there's no customers. Plus, it doesn't make sense to have all the waitresses sitting and preparing cutlery when 30 sets aren't even needed at the moment. Now, another detail that's important to note is that often they don't specify when my shift ends. They'll say something like closing or when it's slow, but even when it's slow and I'm ready to leave, they'll ask me to stay longer until a time they decide. So seriously, what do you think? Am I wrong to feel like I'm doing way more than I should as a hostess? Because right now, I don't know what to do. Okay, honestly, I don't think you're getting taken advantage of here. It may seem like you're doing a lot of things that are outside of your job, but from my own experience, this isn't completely out of the ordinary. So no, I think what you're doing is completely normal for your job, and if I was in your shoes, I would stick it out, as clearly it sounds like this job is a good fit for you. My toxic uncle lies to me by saying he's in a tough financial situation, as he practically begged me for $700 so that he could meet his financial needs. But after not paying me for months, my uncle comes around to our Christmas family dinner, announcing that he's going to be taking his daughter on an extravagant vacation. But at this moment, I snapped, as I exposed him for the liar that he is, as he has yet to pay me back the $700 that he owes me. And now my entire family is turned against me, and I now seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Last September, my uncle, who we will call Daniel, came up to me looking all stressed out and asked if I could have a sit down with him as he needs a favor. He began to speak on how he was really in a rough financial spot and he really had nowhere else to turn to, as he didn't have anyone to ask a loan from, and I was the only one left available. Mind you, I'm not rich or anything of the sort. I just happen to have the amount that he needed at the time. According to him, it was a serious situation that he couldn't approach or tell other guys in the family, and the issue needed to be addressed soon. So without better judgment, I lent him the cash after much insisting from him. We agreed on payment before December, and I didn't even ask for any interest on it. With lots of hugs and words, he took it and gave me his word he would pay it back. Fast forward, and we are now at Christmas dinner at my grandma's house. And all that time, I didn't give him any reminders or a checkup. I assumed that he was late or something like that, and he would let me know why at Christmas dinner, because the larger family meets every year for that. He also didn't call or say anything to update his situation, and I just had to trust that all was well. Now, on a related side note for later, my cousin, who we will call Anna, who is Daniel's daughter, recently underwent surgery a while back, as she really had it rough for the whole of last year while she recovered from a traumatic back injury from an accident. Well, everybody was enjoying their meal, and suddenly my uncle stood up at the dinner table and called for attention for a speech. He began to speak on how his business took a really huge boost, and long story short, he apparently has just cashed in on a very large profit from some deals. He then looked at Anna across the table and took out some brochure with some resort-looking location and said it was a gift to her for her tough recovery from the incident. Now, all I could see was Anna visibly crazy excited. Someone asked what it was exactly, and Daniel said he was planning on taking Anna and the rest of his family to the Maldives as a celebration on Anna's accident recovery. Everyone was now happily cheering Anna on, as her gift seemed like it was something she always wanted to experience. Well, at this point, I couldn't hold it in, as the words just slipped out of my subconscious mind as I looked him straight in the eye and I said the following: "Okay, so you can afford all that but not repay my debt, which you haven't even said anything on?" He responded by saying, "Why are you talking about that now of all places?" Now at this point, I was pissed off. I reminded him in front of everyone on the exact amount, and I told him the fact on how he wasn't even communicating on repaying it. Well, the entire family was in shock with dead silence, as my mom quickly tried to change the subject to avoid an escalation of the situation. Fast forward, and later on in the evening, my aunt, my grandma, and some of my cousins literally began lecturing me on how I ruined Anna's moment after she had this massive struggle, and apparently I embarrassed my uncle in the process. Well, they leave in a week and he still hasn't paid or mentioned anything on the debt. So truly, am I the jerk for ruining the moment and asking for repayment? Because right now I'm still pissed off and I don't know what to do. Oh my god, this is so frustrating, it is not even funny. Here you have a family member who's like, "Oh, you've got to help me out. I'm on such dire straits. My finances are in ruins. I don't know what to do. Please give me money. It's the only way I can make this happen." And I think any reasonable person would be like, "Sure, I'll help you out. I'll give you some money, whatever." It's only $700 apparently, according to the original poster. So it's not that big of a deal, and if I have it, I'll give it to you, especially if you're in like a rough financial spot. Like, I get it. I think anybody would get it. But fast forward to now, and we're sitting at this Christmas dinner, and it's like, "Oh, so that was a straight up lie. You were just lying the entire time." Because now they're going to the Maldives. Like, I don't even know where that is, but it sounds expensive. It sounds like this is probably not something that's like easy to go to. So it makes you wonder if he even had any kind of like financial problems, or was he legitimately going from family member to family member and just getting money out of them? So in my opinion, if someone pulled this kind of garbage on me, I absolutely would call them out as well. Like, you are definitely not the jerk. This is such crappy behavior for so many reasons. And the fact that he tried to guilt trip you and be like, "Wow, you're ruining Anna's big moment." And it's like, wait a second, what about my big moment in my bank account? There's literally a dent that you said you would pay back. Like, what is going on right now? How am I the bad guy? So no, you're definitely not the jerk. Jerk, this is an insane situation, and the fact that your uncle is trying to spin this against you, as well as your extended family trying to be like, wow, you shouldn't have done that. Like, that is insane, and all of them, in my opinion, are completely in the wrong. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My entitled neighbors did me and my family dirty, as they basically tricked us into watching their dog for free, because right now I'm considering going to small claims court, and I seriously now am not sure what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, to give some context to the drama I've had with one of my neighbors, I have 2 small children who met some other kids their age at our local park. I made friends with their grandparents, who were with them at the time, and everything seemed fine. Over time, I got to know the kids' parents, exchanged numbers, and set up play dates. At first, they seemed nice, but then I started noticing some red flags. The mom doesn't hold her daughter accountable for her mischief and always lumps my daughter in, even though my daughter is very well behaved and very sweet. If her daughter does something wrong, my daughter gets questioned as well, which really seems unfair. There's also been some tension between this mom and my husband. The mom, who is a doctor, is very blunt, so much so that it comes across as rude. She's made little jabs about my husband behind his back, which I find inappropriate, especially since he's also a blunt type A personality like her. One particular awkward moment happened at our 4th of July party. This neighbor mom interrupted my dad mid-story, telling him to be quiet and wait his turn to speak. My dad has a habit of talking over people, but for her to speak to him that way, especially when she barely knows him, was just completely out of line. And at this point, I've decided to keep this family at arm's length. They are problematic and very ungrateful. But with all that being said, this is where the drama really starts. While the mom's family was on vacation, my sister watched their dog for 2 weeks. I helped her out by cleaning their house a bit, even though it wasn't necessary. The dog has bladder issues and pees a lot, so my sister cleaned up frequently. Initially, the mom wanted my sister to stay overnight because the dog needs to go out at night. However, when we met at her house before she left, she said to us, "Here's the guest bedroom if you're comfortable sleeping here if you want." The mixed messaging was honestly so confusing. My sister decided to stay overnight, but made sure to consistently check on the dog, clean up after him, and even took him on walks. Now, I thought everything was fine, and we left the house looking really clean. But when I went to talk to the mom today, her husband angrily brought up a pee stain that supposedly caused water damage to the floor. He then directed his anger towards me, and while I was tempted to snap back, I held my temper. The mom was also critical, acting as though the house was destroyed. She even criticized my sister for overwatering one of her plants. And it's like, seriously, are you kidding me right now? I had even gotten her an extra houseplant as a thoughtful gesture. At this point, I'm completely done with this family. They are unreasonable and just so awful to deal with. But I feel like they owe us money for the work my sister did. I feel like they just wanted free pet sitting and made up whatever they could to try and not pay. I really want to take her to small claims court, but I just don't have the energy to entertain this thought, because right now I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, first and foremost, I can't believe you're even wasting your time with these people. Seriously, cut them loose and don't even look back. Don't help them out with anything, just be cordial and silent and stay your distance. Because based on what you described, these people sound super toxic. It seems like no matter what you do for them, they will always find some way to complain. And that sounds super obnoxious, like I would not want to deal with that in the slightest. So sure, they didn't pay you guys for like the time you spent cleaning their house and watching the dog, but in my opinion, just take that as a lesson learned and then move on with your life. Because these people do not sound like good neighbors. And if I was in your shoes, I would just move on and not look back. Am I the jerk for not cleaning my sister-in-law after she passed out drunk and vomited all over herself? Because right now, she's saying that I should have done better at cleaning her, and in fact, according to her, I should have given her a bath while she was passed out. Because right now, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So between Christmas and New Year's, me and my wife went to hang out and drink at my sister-in-law's house, while her husband and son went away for a few nights. Basically, just a normal night. My wife and I went over to keep my sister-in-law company. We played board games and drank and all this other stuff. Now, my sister-in-law is very proper, very fashionable, and basically just a basic white girl. She's probably about 5'2" tall and about 100 pounds. Anyways, we're in the living room and my wife passes out on the couch. So we decided to call it a night sleeping on the couch. My sister-in-law then gets up to go to bed. She is a little wobbly, but she goes into the bathroom and shuts the door. Now, I play on my phone for about 45 minutes, and then I notice that she's still in the bathroom. So I knock on the door, but I get no response. I then play on my phone for about 45 minutes, and I notice that she is still in the bathroom. So I knock on the door again, but I still get nothing. I knock a few more times, but then I open the door and I look in. Well, it turns out that my sister-in-law goes to the bathroom naked, especially especially number 2 if you know what I mean. Apparently she passed out while going to the bathroom and fell off the toilet onto the floor. Somewhere in all of that, she also puked all over herself. So I'm left with a completely naked woman covered in number 1, number 2, and some vomit. Now I try to wake my wife up, but she is completely out cold. I also try to wake up my sister-in-law, but she's out cold as well. So I just grab a bunch of towels and I do a quick cleanup. I get the heavy stuff off of her, I clean up the floor, and I made her a bed of towels so she didn't have to sleep on the cold tile. I propped her head up on a folded towel as a pillow, and I used a giant fluffy towel as a blanket. Now here's where I might be the jerk in this situation. My sister-in-law is mad at me that I let her lay in her own puke and poop all night. She said that I should have picked her up and put her in the bathtub and bathed her, but she was passed out drunk, and I didn't think she wanted me touching her in that state. She then replied that I have a wife and a daughter, so apparently I should have been fine to take care of her. She then said she's only 100 pounds, so it would have been easy for me to do. Now, my wife sides with me, but other women say that I should have cleaned her better. So seriously, am I the jerk here? Would you want someone touching you while you're passed out? Because honestly, right now, I don't know what to do. Okay, what is going on right now? This is crazy. Are you kidding me right now? Like seriously, this lady thinks she's in some kind of like romance novel. And she's like, why didn't you bathe me while I was naked and completely passed out? It's like, yeah, because you were passed out naked, lady. I'm not gonna touch you. The last thing on my mind when I see someone laying in their own feces and urine and vomit is for me to start up the bathtub and be like, okay, let's get you cleaned up and bathe you. No, I'm gonna do what the original poster did. Maybe throw a few towels down and be like, okay, see you in the morning. Like there is no way I'm touching that lady. That is crazy. Because how on earth are you supposed to know that she's gonna be okay with that? Let's say you did go ahead and bathe her for some weird reason. She could then turn around and be like, wow, he did crazy stuff to me while I was completely drunk. It's like, you don't know that she wants that. Like, what in the world is going on? Also, it's really important to note that this is a sister-in-law. This is not someone that the original poster is even related to, not by blood or anything. It's literally just by marriage. So for her to be like, wow, I can't believe you didn't bathe me. It's like, yeah, you're welcome I didn't. That's a crazy thing to get offended over. So no, you're definitely not the jerk, and I think your sister-in-law and anybody who agrees with her is a complete idiot, because what she was asking of you is unbelievably inappropriate and you do not deserve that in the slightest. Am I the jerk for telling my roommate to stop cooking all the time, as she is literally constantly hogging the kitchen all the time? Because right now she is pissed off that I'm not supporting her passions. And at this point, I honestly don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I live with my roommate, who we will call Katie for the sake of the story, and we've been roommates for like a year. Things were fine at first, but now I'm losing my mind because she is obsessed with cooking. Now at first it was kind of cool because she would make these fancy meals and sometimes even offer me some, but now she likes doing it all the time and it's driving me nuts. She cooks literally every single day, sometimes even twice a day, and it's never simple stuff. It's always these big fancy recipes that use like every pot and pan we own. The kitchen is always a disaster, and she doesn't even clean up after herself right away. Like sometimes I'll go to bed and then the next morning there is still dirty dishes and random food everywhere. Also, she has started making weird stuff like fish stock and some kind of like fermented stuff, and it makes the entire apartment smell so bad. The fridge is also a huge issue. She's completely taken over all the space with her leftovers and jars of sauces and random ingredients, and it's like I can now barely fit my milk and eggs in there. Last week I came home starving after work, and she was making this huge meal, and she told me I had to wait like 2 hours to use the stove because she needed it for her process or whatever. So I just ended up eating cereal because it's like I'm not waiting that long. So I told her that she needs to chill out and stop hogging the kitchen all the time and at least clean up after herself. When I said this, she then got super mad and said to me that I'm unsupportive of her passions and that I'm being selfish. She was like, I don't complain when you watch TV all the time, so why are you complaining about this? Which makes no sense because her cooking affects me directly. Now at this point, she's being all passive aggressive, saying things like, oh, I'll just eat some frozen meals from now on since I'm such a problem. And it's like, I don't really know what to say, and now I kind of feel bad about it. But also, I pay rent as well, and I should be able to use my own kitchen. So seriously, am I the jerk for saying anything about this? Or should I have just let her do her own thing because this is her hobby? Because right now, I'm seriously not sure what to do. No, this is crazy. Katie is being so weird in this story. She literally hogs the entire kitchen, leaves a mess everywhere, and then tries to act like this is your problem for saying anything about it. Like, come on, if you're gonna do some kind of hobby like that, you need to clean up after yourself, especially if you have roommates or if you're living with someone. Like, that really is not fair in the slightest. So no, you're not the jerk for saying anything. If I was in your shoes, I would have done the exact same thing, because the way Katie's acting, in my opinion, is incredibly obnoxious. My coworker smells like absolute putrid garbage, and even though we've gone to management about this and asked them to do something to take care of this guy's refused to listen to their warnings, leaving the rest of the staff having to deal with his awful smell on a daily basis. And I now honestly dread going to work because at this point I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I've been working at this restaurant for almost 2 years now. I could be promoted to night manager soon, and my fingers are crossed for that, but right now I'm the head server at the moment. I have a passion for this job. I even had to comment on health code violations to other servers that they were doing and the things that they are still doing. And this one health code violation is an actual walking health hazard. We have a dishwasher that works on Friday and Saturday nights, and I believe he's in his late 50s. He is a very sweet guy. He makes good conversation, has funny moments, and is fast at clearing the pit. But the problem is that he smells horrible. He smells so bad that it literally makes me nauseous and want to throw up. His smell gives us all headaches and nausea, and you can smell him 10 feet away. So as a result, the whole dish and prep area smells horrible when he's back there. I actually had to tell my manager that either I go home or he does. But I'm the closer, so she needs me. His smell giving me a headache and making me feel sick affects my ability to do my job. I can't do my job if every time I'm dropping off a dish, I'm also running to the bathroom needing to throw up. I can't function right having a pounding headache. 6 months ago, he was talked about, and he said it was a medical condition. And he was told to get a doctor's note to confirm it, but he never got one. Well, about 6 weeks ago, he was pulled aside again, and he said he had a change of clothes in his car and was told to go change. He then mumbled his way back to the dish section, claiming discrimination against him. Well, a couple of weeks ago, he's been drowning himself in cologne to try and cover the smell, but it only made it worse. You could smell him around the corner. I mean, the smell punches you right in the face. But not only that, his pants sag so badly, his back pockets are down to the back of his knees. His crack is always out, even though he wears a belt. A server even saw him dig into his butt and go touch dishes right out of the washer. A separate time, I saw him lick his fingers to separate small soup cups as a way of putting them all away. But thankfully, I sat those aside and put them in the wash again. He's now starting to come in and eat on his days off, and we have to sit him on the other side of the closed section so that his smell won't affect our guests. And we even have to bleach bath where he sits twice just to get the smell out. But here's the major problem. The owner is starting to secret shop at the restaurant. If the owner comes in and smells him, I honestly don't know what would happen. The managers have told him to fix the smell multiple times with written reports. But honestly, this is a major hygiene issue. And with multiple verbal warnings and documentation of it, and nothing being done about it, I'm afraid that we will get a big backlash from the owner. I keep telling my manager that he needs to be let go, but she just can't let him go because she doesn't have that power. None of us who work with him can stand this anymore, and I'm honestly now dreading working the night shift because I can no longer stand the smell any longer. Okay, this is crazy because this guy absolutely needs to either clean up or get out. Like, there's gotta be some kind of employee handbook that addresses this, right? I'm pretty sure most places that you work at, you have to have some semblance of like cleanliness in order to work there, especially a freaking restaurant, man. I don't want someone digging at their butt and then washing the dishes, or even catching a whiff of some guy that smells like putrid vomit. Like, seriously, how is this not already taken care of? Because this guy can either clean up his act or he can be fired, and I absolutely think he should be fired. This is not some kind of discrimination case. He's just being disgusting and not properly bathing himself, or like, I don't know, wearing different clothing. So no, you're not the jerk here. This guy's completely gross and out of line, and the fact that the managers haven't addressed this with the owner or somebody above them, in my opinion, is completely insane. My sister-in-law dropped her dogs off at our house without asking us first, demanding that we watch her dogs for a week while she goes on vacation. And even though we told her we're not going to do that literally for weeks prior, she still happily ignored us, deciding instead to go off and do her own thing. But now, after we put those dogs in a shelter, my sister-in-law has gone ballistic, saying that she's going to sue us as a result. Here's what happened. Okay, I want to start off by saying that I know the title sounds bad, but please let me explain. To give some context, my wife works all day and we have 2 kids. I'm in college online, but I'm also starting my work hours. And on top of that, we have 2 rescue dogs and 2 rescue cats. And this will be very important later on. We have London, who is a blue-nosed female pitty, and Raven, who is a female husky. Raven came from a very bad household situation when we rescued her, and she is a dog who is aggressive to dogs that she doesn't know. We do have Raven in training, and she is getting better, but she's terrified of dogs bigger than her. My sister-in-law has 2 dogs, a little Chihuahua and a Great Dane. She ended up booking a trip months ago and recently found out that she can't bring her dogs with her. And so she asked my wife, her sister, if we can watch them. My wife told her sister to talk to me, and I told her, no, I'm sorry we can't. Raven is terrified of big dogs, and your Great Dane is bigger than her. I don't want her to relapse in any kind of way. Well, my sister-in-law, who we will call Amy, then goes on this massive long tangent about how dogs can't relapse, and that apparently Raven will be fine, and that it's not an issue. But I put my foot down, and I told her that we are not watching them. Well, my wife was at work, and I had picked up my kids from my sister's, and when we come home, we find my sister-in-law's dogs in the front yard. I called my sister-in-law and I asked her what she thought she was doing, and she then proceeded to tell me, oh, it's not a big deal, I'll be back in a week. My wife then told Amy that if she doesn't get back from her trip, she won't have her dogs anymore because they won't be here. Now, she thought that we were joking, but when she came back from her trip, she found out that my wife took them to the shelter, and at this point, my sister-in-law went ballistic, screaming and yelling that her babies were gone, and that we should not have done that. But my wife then told her that she had been warned to come and get the dogs, otherwise they wouldn't be here. And now Amy is trying to sue us for giving up her dogs. Now, when I say sue us, I don't honestly mean it, because this isn't the first time Amy has threatened to sue my wife and I. However, Amy has now been going around and spinning this story by saying that I'm the only one who did it and that it's my fault her dogs are gone. Because of this, we now have family members who are split down the middle. So it makes me wonder if we're the jerks for doing what we did with her dogs, because right now I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, I want to point out first off that Amy is a massive hypocrite. She's trying to be like, oh my god, my babies are gone, what have you done? But it's like, wait a second, didn't you leave your dogs at their house unattended and run off on vacation for a week? Even though these people said, hey, if you don't get your dogs, we're taking them to a shelter. Like, if you really cared about your babies, you would be like, oh, let me find other accommodations. Sorry about that. Like, this lady is completely unreasonable and out of her mind. She wants to play both the victim and the assailant at the same time. So no, you're not the jerk for putting those dogs in the shelter. She clearly doesn't care about them, and she just wanted to get her way so she can go on vacation. Because in my opinion, she sounds like a very neglectful dog owner, and she should not have dogs at all if this is the way she's gonna act. Thanks for watching. Subscribe down below if you haven't already, and also please subscribe to Am I the Genius? I think you're gonna love what they're making over there. It's a great channel, and you should definitely check it out. Everything will be linked down below in the description. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.